Yeah.
I don't have notes like you had, but
That's all right.
I'll just wing it.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to the 24 Down podcast, episode 23. We're almost there, guys. So we are here, episode 23, and got a co-host with me, Andrew. Andrew, welcome.
What's up, everybody?
And today's man of the hour, the highly requested, none other than Eugi himself. Gene, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Don't shake your head no like that. Literally, I think you might have been legit the most highly requested. Like,
That's just because I was pushing it off. I didn't want to.
it still counts.
You're smart
True.
for doing that because people they want to see you and hear from you. So
Yeah,
For
well, I
sure.
want a 24th episode for myself, but I mean, 23 is fine.
greedy.
Well, so we're gonna I guess just get right into it. And before you kind of catch us up on what has happened with your life post Valley Forge, post 24 Down, give everybody a quick refresher of what years you were at Valley Forge, if you remember.
I was at oh God, I was there for longer than anybody. I'm pretty sure. I started in 2005, so the year before you got there, and then I ended in 2010. So I was actually there for 5 years because I played more video games than going to class. So I was there for 5 years, and that sucked, and I'm paying for it now.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like I probably played more video games than class too. I just said at one point, I just said, forget this, and I just dropped
Yeah,
out.
yeah. For some reason, I just kept going. I was like, I can finish. I didn't. I did 5 years. I still didn't graduate. Dropped out.
I wonder what the percentage of 24 downers is that graduated, you know?
After listening to the podcast, man, that gave me I thought at first that most people dropped out, but after listening to all these people and talk to this and that, I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It might just be like me and Hat.
Well, Francis too.
That's true. Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you catch us up on everything in your life post Valley Forge, post 24 Down, and go into as much or little detail as you want.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. In 2010 is when I finished attending. I did not graduate, but I got a job out there at Starbucks, and it was during the year, just towards the end of the year, and then I decided to stick around the area instead of going back to the Poconos. One of my friends from the Poconos needed a place to stay, so right when I got out of Valley Forge, I got my own place in Elm Street in Pottstown. And he was like, I need a job, I need a place. And I was like, all right, cool, just come get a job with me. I got him a job at Starbucks, and then he moved in with me. He was there, I think he was only like 18, maybe at the time, 19. And he wasn't ready, I don't think, to not be at his mom's or something. So after 2-3 months, he started getting fidgety, and he was like, yeah, I don't know if I can do this. And I was like, all right. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to move out. And I was like, all right, that sucks because I kind of need this room taken. That's when, I don't remember if I got a hold of Hat or if you got a hold of me, but somehow we got in contact, and he's like, yeah, things aren't working out in Detroit, but I still have my job from college in Pennsylvania. Do you have a spot? And I was like, yeah, please. And we literally picked a day like 5 days later. I was like, you're coming in on Monday. And the funny thing about that story is Saturday, 2 days before my buddy was supposed to move out, he was like, yeah, I don't think I want to move out. And I was like, I just like walked up to him. I was like, my friend's moving from Detroit like tomorrow, get out. And I felt kind of rude about it, but at the same time, I was just like, yeah, we got to move on. Like, this is what's happening. So I lived with Hat for 3.5 years after that. We moved around twice. Also, while we were living there, my brother and his wife got married and then moved in. So then my bedroom was the dining room that we could talk about later if you want. And then my other buddy from Maine moved in. Oh, that house was nuts. So there's 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was pretty rough. But then we moved out of the place to Hat's buddy's Dan. We moved into his house. He had the basement, I had the attic. We were there for 1.5 years, I think. and then had moved back to Detroit. I was still at Starbucks. Me and my brother and his wife got a place on the other side of town. We lived there for about 2-3 years. I made some pretty poor decisions before moving, and some pretty poor ones while I was there. Uh, I think that is also something we're going to get into pretty soon. But I just spent a lot of time working at Starbucks. I was there for 4 years. My brother got me a job at QMES, which is a medical company where he worked, and his wife, Katie Monkey, as you all know, worked as well. And yeah, that job kind of sucked, but I was doing it. Um, I don't know if you know this, Hat, but I got fired because some computers went missing and they knew my history. And so they fired me because they were like, "Oh, it's on his history. He must have done it." And I was like, I didn't do nothing with computers." And so I got fired, but luckily I was working as an apprentice at the time at a garage. So they hired me as soon as I left. So I worked there at a small garage for about a year. And I transferred to a Toyota dealership. I was a mechanic there for about a year and a half. Um, it's always been my passion to do cars in some way. I love working on them. I love getting dirty. I love the jobs. But the issue was the flat rate pay, um, which we don't understand flat rate. It's you get paid for the work you do, not for how long it takes or how long you're there. So, like a brake job, they charge 2.5 hours. If you do it in 2.5 hours, you're making what they call you're just making on time money. If you do it in an hour, you're making more because you can get another job in. If it takes you 6 hours because you're running the problems, you only get paid for 2.5. So that kind of took the allure, if you will, out of wanting to work on cars. It was just frustrating seeing people just sitting down making double, triple our money. So um, towards the end of my career at Toyota, I found this job I'm at now. I've been here for 4 years. It's just a warehouse job, but it's called Turn 14 Distribution. My brother works there. My wife works there. My buddy Tim works. I've gotten a lot of people jobs there. And I've been there 4 years. And during that time, I was asked to be the conveyor mechanic. So I learned for a couple of years the conveyors, did the job, fixing whatever. And then for personal reasons, about 6 months ago, I stepped back down. I got morning shift because of it, so I could only be on night shift for the previous job. So I got morning shift now. But I am just a warehouse worker again, stocking shelves, taking off. But the fun part about the company itself is that it works with aftermarket performance car parts. So all we do is we induct parts that are performance car parts for exotic cars, muscle cars, imports, tuners, anything you can think of. So that aspect of it was what really appealed to me in the beginning. I get at cost parts, so for my builds, I can just save a lot of money. But it's also a pretty good company to work for. They're growing very fast. During the pandemic, we didn't have any time off, which was good. A lot of people did, and they forced them into other situations financially and stuff. So we ended up doing pretty well. We came out on top. We came out above prediction for what they expected. And so about a year into working at Turn 14, a little year and a half, I got my wife a job there. She was not my wife at the time. She was just somebody I had met the year prior. And from there, we haven't really spent a day apart. I mean, here and there maybe, but we just started talking, we started dating, and then we got married last year. So it was 2019. It was a little bit of a shotgun wedding. We have reasons for that as well, but it's fine. I love her to death. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's great. She's amazing. She's sweet. She's everyone she's met from 24 down. She's loved so far. She gets along with everybody. She is a little shy at first because that's just kind of her anxiety and things she has to deal with. But yeah, so I got married 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and still working at Turn 14. Still living with my brother. That's just something that seems to keep coming around. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at now.
Nice. Well, I mean, there's like if you think about it, you're like living with your brother and everything like that. Like I don't personally, I don't. It's almost like I can't really picture you guys not living together.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we moved into his house earlier this year in January because his roommate, he had an issue with his roommate. He moved out suddenly, didn't pay rent, so we decided to help cover. So we were there for about 6 months, and that was the first time I'd lived with him for about 3, 4 years. But yeah, once we did, we wanted to find a place closer to work because we were driving 45 minutes. And then just so happened we found a great place. It was a beautiful, big house. And then we needed for the check to get the house, we needed the financial background of them having these bigger paychecks that would help us. So it wasn't, I mean, necessarily we didn't plan to move in together, but it worked out. And I know we're really happy about it. They're happy about it. It's relieved a lot of stress and helped us save money in the long run. So
Yeah, I think like when I think about you, you and your brother, and I think I said this on his podcast too. Um, and like Junior and Mikey are the same way. Like you guys are very different in many ways, but you guys are still each other's best friends. And
yeah.
so like it wouldn't surprise me if you guys just spend the rest of your two old men still living together. Like and I think it's cool. Like I think that's awesome. That's something a lot of people don't have. So
It
I think
it is nice we have that. And I did read a question earlier that is gonna, I'll get into it more, but my brother is an asshole. And, we did not get along until our mid to late 20s. Always being competitive, always being this, whatever, trying to be better. Um, there's still that reminiscing between us. It's not mostly because of sports, because we don't play sports anymore. But yeah, we don't get along at times, but at the same time, like he is my best friend, and as much as it seems to me that that can suck, but it doesn't. Like we're always there for each other. We're always got each other's backs. Like when we moved in with him, we didn't have to. We were living at a great place. We were like, yeah, we just got to get his back. Same with here. We're like, can you help us out? Only be a year or two, whatever. But that's kind of how it is. Like we don't get along, and at the same time, we don't like each other, but we're best friends, and that's just kind of how it is. Like there's a lot of times I don't like him, but I love him, and it sucks.
well, even like I could see even if like you guys end up getting separate places, I can almost guarantee those places are going to be less than 5
Oh
minutes
yeah,
apart from each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
It
um,
would
It'll
be
probably
really weird to actually go to one of your guys' house and not have the other one there, because
right.
yeah,
it makes
but
it
doesn't
very
that,
easy to visit too. So it's
it
nice.
does? Doesn't that kind of suck? You're like, oh, I'm visiting the twins. Can't it just be like, I'm my own person here, please?
It makes it
Well,
more special.
I mean, for
For
us,
you.
it makes it better. Yeah.
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 But
So one thing that you brought up briefly, and I just kind of want to touch on it because it's funny, was the apartment. So, like you said, I lived with you for 3.5 years, and at least two. I think it was about 3.5 years. We lived in this apartment together, and it was a two-person apartment, and we had a few people that kind of lived there just a short amount of time. But like you said, at one point there was five of us in a two-bedroom apartment. Now, before there was five of us, when there was just four of us, let me paint the picture for everybody. Um, when I moved in, uh, Gene was with he was dating another girl at the time, and so like they were in the one bedroom, and then I was in the other bedroom. And then when Francis and Katie moved in, Gene and this girl had split up at that point. So Gene decided that he was gonna be the nice guy, and I'm gonna move out to the dining room. So we literally drove to Home Depot, got this like plywood, and we put it on top of the like car, held it on. Like we didn't have straps. We literally held out the window, held like down to the car as we're driving back from Home Depot to the apartment. And we made this plywood wall with like a cut-in door and everything in the dining room that turned into the bedroom. And then, like you said, your buddy then moved in a little while after that, and so then the two of you were in that room. So it was literally it was nuts.
yeah, so I gave the master to Francis and his wife, who were just recently married. Had his own room, and I can't, for the life of me, figure out why you got a room to yourself and I had the dining room. But I mean, it is what it is.
I think,
But yeah, so
if I had to guess, so like when I moved in, like I said, like you were in the master bedroom and I was in this other room, and then like when we did the switch around, if I had to guess, like no, I mean whatever, we'll just call it what it is. Like you and I were both kind of like in our wild days and stuff, and we were occasionally bringing home a girl or two, not at a time, but like a girl or two
yeah,
here and there, whatever. And by that I mean quite a few girls over the course of a few months, whatever. So I don't know if us sharing a room together would have really worked out um, to fit that situation. So
yeah, it definitely wouldn't have. But I'm okay with it. I like that the dining room was my place. It worked. It was what it, you know.
well,
That's
the go ahead,
that's the
Andrew.
one I got to actually come over and see, and that's where you had the infamous TV from the back porch. That's when I found out about that.
But I don't know what you're talking about, Andrew.
What's he
No,
talking
no.
about?
from
We
the
already talked about that, so it's
from
fine.
the back porch podcast thing?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That
oh,
TV.
okay.
Yeah. But no, I was there at that one, and I remember seeing that like your plywood room or whatever, and then the house. I guess after that, you guys like rented. That's where you stayed in the or whatever. I
Yes.
remember I was over there too. Do you guys remember I was there?
Yeah, Gene was upstairs. It was like an
Okay.
attic, but there was like a bedroom and like living room up there. And then I was downstairs,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
had a bedroom that was incredibly long, had like a bar inside the bedroom, which was great for me at the time. But yeah, no, so the Gene and I have some crazy, crazy memories from that 3.5 years. We'll probably get into some of those as this episode goes on. Um, but I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say on your catching up for now. Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm glad I was able to reconnect and go see the house where they live at now. I had a really good time catching up. I've kind of randomly every couple years. I mean, it was more when I was active duty, so I didn't live here. But when I'd come down, I try to visit and stuff and see them. So no, it's awesome to hear your story and um, it's like I said, it's in a selfish way. I hope you and your brother always live together because it's just like you guys are known for that. And it's not that like, oh, you're twins and you're the same. It's nothing like that. It's just it's awesome to be able to see to see your brother and you and have you guys together. And it's just like the best thing. It just makes it so great to be able to always see Francis and Eugene and hang out with you guys. And you guys are always so much fun and just awesome, So I mean, geez, my kids are all of a sudden now fans of Francis and Eugene. So so it continues.
Well, we're happy to have them at any time. They were great.
Nice.
Well, good.
That's good. Well, speaking of Andrew's kids, we're gonna move into the questions segment of this show, and we've got quite a few questions from quite a few different people. So Andrew's gonna kick us off because he's actually got some questions from his kids. From what I understand. So go ahead, Andrew.
That's right. I actually told the girls. I said, "Hey, I said I'm talking to Yugi today," and I said, "Do you girls want to ask him any questions?" And it was so cute because Sky actually said that. She said, "Tell Yugi this." So she actually said Yugi. So that was really cute, I thought. But so Sky's question is, do you know any jokes?
Do I know any jokes?
That was her question. That's what she asked. She wanted to ask Yugi, do you know any jokes?
I don't. I am fresh out.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Well, I'll tell her.
Tell her a joke. I don't know.
Okay. No, and then Jade said, when can Sky and her come over again?
Oh, whenever you want. Whenever your father will let you.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, so
no,
that
yeah,
shows how
we
much fun
really,
they had because they remembered everything. They remembered coloring and your motorcycles. Like you guys were like the coolest people to be around. So they
yeah, we
apparently
really
Jade wants to come over.
we really enjoyed having them over. I mean, your kids are amazing. They're sweet. They just kept wanting to draw pictures for us, and we still have them on the fridge. You said they got extremely comfortable compared to what you're used to. So for us, that meant a lot. We like to have a nice, comfortable place and surroundings for people. We know that you like to ride my motorcycles at one point, so we put you on it and put your kids on it with you. It was an all around good time.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah,
you guys are
no,
more than welcome to come whenever. Like, we know that it's not too close, but it's also not Detroit far. So
yeah. Who would live there? I mean, that's craziness. No, I really honestly, what my with how comfortable my kids got, it was crazy. Like, they were of course staying by me at first, and then we go because we were talking outside. We go inside, and they were just hugging on my legs like they wouldn't leave. And then it was like um they showed us around the house, so the kids got to see everything in their house, and then it was like all of a sudden they were just so completely happy to just like we all went outside and they stayed inside by themselves and were coloring and playing, and like they weren't doing anything bad. They were just really comfortable, and that actually spoke to me about you guys. That's the first time I met your wife. But for you guys to have a house like that, to me that speaks something that it's peaceful, it's safe. Like that really means something when kids can walk in somewhere like that and just feel completely happy because they come downstairs in our house and they'll be like, "Oh, come down here with me," and it's like, "Go down, you can go play." And but like they were just in your house by themselves and were completely happy. So it really did mean a lot to see that.
it's awesome.
All right, so our next set of questions here comes from Matt Baldwin. His first one is you're always distinguished from your brother as Clean Gene because you had no facial hair. Why did you decide to go full Duck Dynasty like Fuzzy Francis?
I went bald. I didn't want to. I didn't. I don't know. There was one point where I shaved my head and I shaved my face, and somebody made fun of me for looking like I had cancer. So I had to grow it out. After we left college, Fran's beard he let go for the past 5 or 6 years. He's been growing it. So for me, it was easy to just have like a week or two's worth. It was still pretty thick and it looked decent. So at that point, I don't think I've had a clean shaved face in years now, 7 or 8 years. I keep it trimmed sometimes, but I don't know, something about having hair in general was was nice. So this is I had to hold on to something. So gonna let my beard grow a little bit.
I mean it. I guess I haven't dealt with that yet, but I'm sure it's coming one day. So, um, about Baldwin's next question is he he wants to know if you regret not going pro with your 4-man squad in Halo, considering how popular and lucrative pro gaming is now. Also, how much did you cry at night because we did not?
That's a tough one because I had multiple opportunities um, to reach those goals and be that person. When we were playing, there was barely competitive. There was a little bit back in college, and 2013, 2014 hit. It started growing, and I remember vividly, and I kick myself all the time for not doing this. My brother-in-law came to us once when we were going up to visit my mom's, and he's a IT nerd. He's all into this kind of stuff, and he just looked at us and goes, there's this thing now where you can play games and stream it, and for whatever reason, people will pay you, and they get subscriptions, and you can make a lot of money. And it was like a tip, basically. And at that point, if I had taken that tip and just started, who knows where I could be now. But some of the most famous people in the world now are streamers, like Ninja, Doctor Disrespect. Like, you don't even have to be a gamer to know some of these names. Like, you just know who they are, and all they did was play video games. Ninja was a a world champion in Halo 2 and Halo 3 back in like 2010 and 11. So if we had stuck to that, yes, it's something that could have been big for us, and that blows. So yeah, I cry a lot because now me and my brother, we have streaming sites on Twitch, whatever, but my only viewer is him and his only viewer is me. So we don't get anywhere. That's where we're at now. So yeah, it sucks, and we have tried, but we're late to that game, and yeah, we're kicking ourselves for it. Thanks, Matt.
All right. So I'm gonna ask my questions next. Um, So I just thought of this one. I thought this would be a fun one. Do you have any special memories about the stoop?
Like just hanging out up there, or
Yeah, just what do you have any specific memory that pops out that has to do with us chilling out there, taking pictures? We were
I wish I could be specific about one, but something inside me just wants to take that stoop and put it on my new house. Like I want to keep that with me. There was times, when people were playing Ultimate Frisbee, when times where people were playing sports out there, just hanging out, playing guitar, and most times being annoying to people walking by. I can't pick one, but I can say that a lot of times I was out there playing Ultimate Frisbee. But if I didn't want to, I could hang out with 10 people on the stoop, just chilling, laughing. Um, Something about that is just so good to think about because out of all the places in the dorm itself, we had little areas and couches and stuff. The stoop always stands out because it almost didn't matter what time of year it was. We were usually on it. Um, so I can't really pinpoint one, but besides what has already been brought up in some when they were throwing people through windows and it got shattered right outside the stoop there, that was pretty awesome. But yeah, besides that, there's nothing I can pinpoint that would be the best. It was just all perfect. There was nothing that stood out because it was just all already great.
Good answer. I totally agree. I was actually thinking that I think a couple days ago. I was like, dude, I wish I could like pick it up and transport it and put it in my backyard, just just to have it. But so this is one that I'm probably going to start asking everybody. What was your go-to at Wawa when we do our late night Wawa runs?
During college, it was an Italian hoagie, but ever since Hat lived with me, it's been the buffalo chicken strip sandwich. I get buffalo chicken strips. Um, that is the best. Period. I had it like 3 days ago. Hat, sorry, but it's like the greatest thing ever. I remember one time we were hanging out at Wawa for some reason, and Hat choked on his. He just straight up almost died. Like he was just sitting there gagging and stuff, and he finally got the big glob of buffalo chicken and just spit it out on the ground, and he coughed, and then he just kept eating. Like he didn't even take another breath. He was just like, all right. It was so I know that it's something people like, but it's also that's my go-to. Like whenever we go to Wawa or whatever, that's what I'm eating.
Nice.
I want to say too, like, so, first of all, fuck you for being able to have that a few days ago.
No, I'll
and
send you
then
one.
second of all, I got speaking of, I got a late night message on Facebook last night from DShat as a picture message, and then he says, breaking a 24-hour fast with buffalo chicken sub from Wawa. I'm like, you son of a.
That's fun though because we know you don't have it, and it was your favorite by far when you lived here. So sucks to be you.
Looks like I know what I'm going to eat next for lunch and send Hat a picture of.
We got to make that into a thing, really, where everybody who lives in Pennsylvania just always Snapchat, send pictures to group about the sandwiches that Hat wishes he could have.
I hate
Yep.
you all.
Or as Simmons would say, sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
All right, so here's a very serious question. Do you think our band should get back together for a reunion tour?
I don't think I could handle that. I think I'd be out of breath in like 5 minutes. I'm not in shape, and we could. Why don't you come over and we'll work on it? We'll throw some instruments together and see if we can stand long enough.
I think we should. I mean, we put a lot of time into that band. I mean, how many practices did we have?
Did we have practices?
We actually had one at your mom's house.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember the one.
Yeah, we had one.
Can I throw a little extra thing into here? My question to follow up with that question is, Gene, do you think that our band should have a reunion?
Absolutely. There's nothing holding me back from that band getting
No,
back
your
together.
your band sucked. I don't.
You didn't even. No, we're gonna know how it goes. We couldn't have sucked because none of it was us, but it was way better. Anyways, yes, we should. I've thought about that a lot, Had honestly. I don't know, like just randomly pops in my head. Like I really wish we could just sit around and play Rock Band some more and rock out and make really terrible videos of us in just shorts and climbing on tires and stuff. I don't know. It really was a good time, and I think about it a lot. So yeah, I think when we have a reunion, that's gonna be a must.
So
sure.
I was telling Francis this a while back. I looked because I have the most current Rock Band, which I think is Rock Band 4, I think maybe 5. I don't remember what it is. It's the most current one, and I think they're done making those games. But so I have it, and I was like, man, like you can play online. Like it wouldn't be the same, but you can play online. And so I looked it up on like eBay and stuff like that to be like, here, Francis, like here's some listings. That shit's so expensive now. It's unreal. I mean, it's like I want to say it was like I think the cheapest one I could find, like, and it was like not brand new in packaging. It was like used. The cheapest one I could find was like at least $200, if not more. I was just like, oh, all right. Well, Francis, you don't have to spend that kind of money for us to
Yeah,
just play some video games
that's more
online.
than it was when it was new. That's crazy.
That's funny. Well, your guys' band was probably way better, but ours took way better band picks.
That's true.
Our band
We
picks
had
were
really
awesome.
killer band picks. We took another one, an updated band pick a couple weeks ago when you were
That's
there.
true. Actually, that was our reunion. That's true. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. There wasn't
All
a
right.
fence like in the first one, but yeah, it was pretty good.
True. All right, I got one more question. So besides the stoop, if you could get something from 24 down, so a piece of the building, what would it be, and what would be the meaning behind it?
I would just probably take room 117. There was a period where I lived there with you, Andrew, Rizzo, and Francis, and then it was a period where I lived in the room next door, the little basic closet, whatever it was. But yeah, that's probably what I would take, and everything in the ceilings and all the holes and everything that's probably still there because they did not take care of that place. But yeah, absolutely, 117 would be coming to my new place.
That's a very good question. I like that question a lot. I'm gonna, as the quote unquote host of this, I'm gonna take a little chance to make this about me for a second, and because I want to answer that question too. Um, so I think like I'm right on par with Gene, but obviously like realistically I can't take the whole room. So like if I were to go back, and really like narrow it down off the top of my head, I think I would take just like a ceiling tile, just a single ceiling tile from the room 117 and like frame it up somehow or something like that. Um, or just because it's completely random, maybe the phone. Remember the phone that was like outside of the RA room for whatever reason I don't even know why it was there. Like just for the randomness, I might be like, I'm gonna take that phone, but that would be my answer. Andrew, I'm gonna give you a chance to answer your own question too, because it's such a good question.
Well, thank you. I actually would. Well, first of all, I actually have one of the keys from room 117, so I do actually have one of those still. But I think I was honestly going to answer because I thought about it too. It would be a ceiling tile, because of the memories of just that room. But then when that whole ceiling collapsed on Eugene and I, we were sleeping on the floor because it was so hot. So it has special memory just from when it fell and hit us in the faces. But yeah, no, I think ceiling tile it would kind of be my go-to also.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Andrew, because I'm going to ask you a question, and I have a feeling that a lot of other people might ask you this. Um, will you do me a huge favor? You don't have to answer yes or no yet, but this is what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you to do me a huge favor, and that is to go to a hardware store, find the most just generic looking key possible, make a copy of room 117's key. Let me know how much the key costs, let me know how much shipping costs, and ship it out to me. I would for sure pay to have a 117 key like carried around with me.
I agree with him. You're gonna have to make multiple.
I could do that. Like I said, I I think I kept it when I was RA. I didn't hand that one in. But yeah, no, I'll check into it because that is a special key that's probably the one rule I broke anyway. So,
And I'm gonna say this too. You should, like, as you look into like doing this or whatever, if this becomes a thing and a lot of people are like, hey, I want a 117 key, upcharge us all. So like you can make a profit on it because you're going to be driving, you're going to be spending your own time, gas, whatever. Like if it costs me 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever, like let's say the cost of it for you to do it is including shipping $5 and you want to charge 10 because of your time and gas and all that stuff, dude, charge 10. And anybody that has a problem with that, don't have a problem with it, because if he does this, he's going to be taking a lot of time out of his, time to do this. So I'm not saying everybody ask, but I know I for sure want one. But
we'll have to do a Facebook poll and find out who'd be interested, and we'll have to get some keys made. But yeah, no, that sounds good. That sounds like a good idea. I won't charge much. I'll just upsell like 200%.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fair. All right, so these next set of questions are from Colleen. So the first question is, what is your best memory of 24 Down and your worst memory of 24 Down?
Oh my God, that was perfect. Oh man. Thanks, Colleen, for yelling that to me. I heard you from Jersey. My best and worst memory, right? My best memory, and it's a little selfish, but it's kind of like when I peaked a little bit, was when we were playing dodgeball and I took out a whole team by myself. That was for me because I was all into being an athlete and being the best that I could, and just getting riled up at the end of it as the whole floor and all the girls and guys and stuff. That for me was that was peak. Like everything about that memory was great. But worst memory, I gotta say, and I was thinking about it the past couple of days because I knew these kind of questions would come up. The worst memory is every time somebody pulled us aside, and in 24 Down, we were so closely knit. It wasn't something where it was just like, I'm not coming back, whatever, bye. It was like almost everybody pulled people aside one by one, two by two, depending. And was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm not coming back next year. Every time I heard Andrew or Tom or even Colleen pull me aside, James, like every time hearing that, it just felt like a little piece of, home and what it was and the whole dynamic of the group. Every time something like that happened, it just felt like it was being removed. Not saying that the place wasn't the same or we still didn't have good times. It was just something that was like the whole dynamic for me just got mixed up, and that was easily the worst memory. But yeah.
Well, well, I guess my first question is, can you guys still hear me good? I had to readjust my mic. I'm still coming through good. I apologize.
Great. Yeah, that's good.
I apologize to the listeners because that's gonna probably piss off some people. Like, fuck, that was loud.
Well, Colleen's still louder than that. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. All right. So next question here is, if you could have changed one thing while you were at Valley Forge, what would it have been? Could be rules, something you did or didn't do, chapel every day, etc. But if you could change one thing while you were at Valley Forge, what would it have been?
That's a good question too. These are coming in hard. Obviously, I didn't like the idea of chapel every day. Most of us didn't, to be honest. But yeah, that's probably, if it was something I could change, it would probably be the chapel thing, because not only for me personally, but I know for other people just alike, being forced to chapel and find otherwise seemed to push me away from those steps towards the church and those steps towards wanting to be the godly person that the school probably assumed I would want to be. Growing up in a life of the church and being forced to go to the church, and in this case for me, the Assemblies of God, there was just things about that just rubbed me the wrong way, and it ruined church for me for a long time. Years and years after school, like I just didn't want to go. I just felt like I'm not being forced, I'm not being charged money, I'm not like, so that kind of ruined the whole idea of church for me. So if it was one thing, it would be that. Even though I do appreciate every awesome story about how people scan and scram, how people like it's so in depth. Like everyone tells a story and how they got in and then how they got out, and it that really did add a piece to 24 Down, but still, it's something that I would have wished to change. So like for my scan and scram story, I would just scan, go to the bathroom, sit there for like 20 minutes till everybody was gone, and then just walk out. It was a waste of time. So towards the end of my years, I would just swipe in, go up to the stairs on the right, and walk down the fire escape. But that was also effective. But I'll never forget the one time Mark Telesha caught me and came into the room. I think I was hiding in the closet or something. I can't remember, but he definitely he still caught us. We weren't very sneaky.
Nice. All right. So next Colleen question here. She wants to know if you remember the weekend that her, you and Francis, she thinks maybe Audra and Monkey were there as well. But they all spent the weekend at your house. And Saturday night before church, you guys all slept in your room because you wanted to stay up all night talking. Everyone slept in different parts of the room. But when your mom came to wake us up for church, she almost had a heart attack seeing the girls in there. She wants to know if she's still mad about that and tell her I said I'm sorry and I miss her.
I will let her know that, Colleen, but I got to be honest, I don't remember anything about that. I'm sure it happened. I am, but I guess I'm just as bad as Hat, man. Every time Hat says he doesn't remember something on one of these podcasts, I make fun of him a little bit in my head. But wow, yeah, okay. No, I don't remember that at all. And I'm sure as hell sure my mom doesn't remember it either. But yeah, I'll mention it to her and see if she does. If she does, then maybe I'll get a little context out of that story too, because I don't remember that.
Well, I think ultimately, if Audra was involved, I think that might like set your mom at ease a little bit. Like, well, okay, Audra's in here, so nothing crazy obviously happened, But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your mom's perspective on that if she remembers it.
Maybe I can get her on the
Um,
podcast for you.
yeah, I would love, honestly, I would love to have your mom on the podcast because there are so many of us that had like personal connections with your mom as well from all the times that we would go back and visit and everything like that. And I've said it on a podcast before, like, um, your mom like treated all of us as if we were her own sons too. She was so like hospitable to us all. Like she just made sure we were comfortable, like, making food for us, everything. Like your mom was so cool. And I know there's many, many, many 24 downers that have like a special bond with your mom as well because of like how awesome she was to us. So trust me, like when I started this podcast and I said I want this to extend past people that lived within the floor of 24 down, I wasn't just talking about the Matt Baldwins who they were in our group but didn't live in our floor. I'm talking about parents or whoever, like another perfect example is like Joy, Buddha's wife, because like she they dated the whole time. So like she knows 24 down and a lot of us met her, but like it'd be interesting to hear her perspective too. So the same thing, like, dude, I would love to have your mom on an episode.
Yeah, I'll talk to her. I'm sure she'd love it too. It was nice listening to all the podcasts. So I want to say thanks to everybody who brought that up. I did hear about the paintball a few times from people, and people just coming over in general, like Simmons and Samsung. Everybody had great things to say, and I haven't told anything to my mom yet about it, but it's something I do want to bring up to her. And in some cases, I'll show her parts of the podcast that bring her up, but she would love to hear that. Those kind of encouraging things, because it was weird because we literally we wouldn't give her heads up and we'd just be like, hey, 30 kids are coming over, can we play paintball? And yeah, sure. And I'll cook like 70 pounds of lasagna and all this other shit. And we're like, okay. But we didn't even think twice. Like she never hesitated. She never said, I don't know if it's this week. And she was just like, all right, yeah, sure. Absolutely. Even for me, that surprised me. So it is really nice to hear those things. And I'll make sure that anybody who's ever brought that up or said something nice about her, she'll get the messages for sure.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Colleen's last question, and um, this is her question she asks pretty much everybody. She's wants to know why you don't have the 24 down tattoo yet, and she also wants to say that she misses you.
Thanks, Colleen. I miss you too. I don't know who told her I don't have one, because, well, I don't, but I know it came up in a previous podcast. They were like, I don't know if Gene has it. He has the Adelphi. So it's kind of just going to play it off so that hopefully nobody got to a point where they're like, why don't you have it? No, it is something I'm actually working on. I was talking to my wife a month or two ago before most of this podcast even stopped, and it's just something we're looking into getting right now. A lot of shops have different shop minimums, and they're super expensive. So it's something. It's definitely, I'm not shy of tattoos. I have lots of tattoos, so it is something I'm getting. I'm gonna have it integrated to my left sleeve when I get that started. But yeah, it'll be soon. That'll probably be the benchmark of, my forearm and stuff. So it is going to be coming soon, and I miss you and I love you, Colleen.
I got to apologize because she flat out asked me if you had it, so I was the one that told her. It's like what I told you earlier this week. Like if somebody asks me something straight up, I'm not gonna lie about it. So like it just is what it is. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not worried about it. It is something I've been meaning to get. I got caught up with all these, and I always had a plan to get it, but I never actually got it. But it's actually been 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years since I've gotten one, and I'm itching. So that's something small I could probably get to start off my left sleeve. And I do have a Delphos, like we talked about. I think you, me, and Fran got those first. Then Rizzo got it. Was there anybody else that got it?
D-Shat's got it.
Yeah, D-Shat came with us when we first got it. But I think Rizzo was the only other person to get it after that. I was thinking about it, but I couldn't remember if anyone else got it.
Andrew, you don't have a Delphos, right?
No, I don't. But with all the money I'm gonna make from the 117 down keys, I'll use it to pay for my tattoo.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, so I have the next set of questions here, but I did want to say something about your mom too. It's funny, I can completely, like, exactly picture your guys' house in college. Like I can see parking on the street. It was a little steep. Like I can remember everything. So it's crazy that I remember so much about it. But the same thing, man. Your mom was super nice. And like I said, we were playing guitar and drums in her house, like college age people, and she didn't care. She never even said anything. She would just sit and like read her book, and like I was so she was an angel for putting up with all of us, for sure.
I mean, honestly, if my mother wasn't getting a call from the school saying we got suspended, she didn't care.
All right, well, the next set of questions here is from Wolfie. And so the first thing he asked, he says, "Are you competitive?" He said, "I feel like you were probably one of the best overall athletes on 24 down, but don't remember you really flaunting it."
Yeah, growing up with my brother, it made me very competitive. It wasn't even by choice. It was always us trying to be better than the other. It ended up we both had strengths and we both had weaknesses, neither of which mattered. We just always hated each other because we wanted to be better. But yeah, so I am pretty competitive. Anything I did, I was pretty much good at. Any sport, at least. I would pick up things quick, but my issue was that I never invested the right amount of time into one. And growing up in middle school, high school, and then going into college, I was on 3 or 4 soccer teams, a travel team, in-house school, some other teams, whatever, and then just straight to basketball, straight to track, and then sometimes football and whatever else. So it was like I always was good at it and I enjoyed it, but I never felt like, you say I never flaunted it, but it was because I just never felt that I was good enough, because I always just split it up. Like I split my skills up between all these things because I was good at them, but I was never great at one thing. Like I was never fantastic at something. Like if I had sat down my entire high school career, I was like, I don't want to play basketball, I'm just going to focus on soccer. I could have been something. I feel like I could have been something, but I just took the easy way out. I was like, I'm good at basketball, so I'll play. I'm good at soccer, I'll play it. But yeah, it also did come with a competitive spirit in a lot of ways. I still am competitive today, but now it's more of an old man / video games competitive. And usually just yelling at my brother, and he yells at me all the time. We fight a lot. But yeah, so we are competitive, but Yeah, I didn't see a point to flaunting it because I never thought, there was always somebody better. So it's not just, to me, it's not worth being arrogant about or being too proud of. The only, like I said earlier, the only thing I was really proud of myself was the dodgeball thing. I blacked out. I don't even remember it. It was just so much fun. And um, that's kind of where I peaked, like I said. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, like so for me, like thinking about this, and I think this, I don't remember what episode it was. It might have been the Simmons episode. Flat out said like gave you props on like how athletic you were and like kind of like under the radar how athletic you were. And again, I think it goes back to you not flaunting it. And that's part of your character. Like you and Francis both. You guys aren't cocky people. You aren't look at me type people. Like you're just you do your thing and that's it. Like, but you like your answer to that question, you're definitely undercutting yourself because like you were so like athletic and like so good at everything sports wise that you did in like a very underrated way. Like, and it's funny because like you talk about the dodgeball story. Thinking back to all the dodgeball tournaments that happened while I was there, I remember the um like the outfits, because it was always like, okay, we had to like dress up as a team. I remember all the outfits. I remember like pre going to the gym and like being in the room with the team and then another 20 or 30 people. We did it for intramural stuff. We did it for dodgeball where we're listening to some like crazy rap song and everybody's getting hype and everything like so. Like I remember those things, but I don't remember any aspect of any of the games themselves other than I remember like very vividly remember the game where you say that you peaked. And it was just like a the when the game was finally over, it was literally like an eruption. Might have been maybe the biggest 24 down sports related eruption because it was like everybody was just like, oh, like I can't believe what just happened, kind of thing. And like I can specifically remember that game. I can't remember any other game or play or anything like that in dodgeball. So I don't know. That was just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight for sure, man. That was awesome, and it's funny that pot or that dodgeball shirt. I'm gonna have to get because Hat's been churning these shirts out. I'm gonna be spending thousands of dollars on trying to buy all these shirts. But that dodgeball champion shirt is just perfect.
Yeah, I had that idea just randomly one morning. I woke up like 4:30, and I almost immediately texted Hat. I was just like, I have an idea, and he's like, all right, what is it? And I told him, he's like, I think I get it, and it just turned out perfect. It was just because I wanted something that showed us all, and I wanted it to just be classic and classy. So it was a really good idea, but I'm really proud of it. But like you just said, these shirts, Hat, you're pushing out shirts like I can't even think, and I want the dodgeball one. I want like the Patriot Bowl. I was a part of that small, and then I want like the Halo one just came out. Like that's clutch for me. Like that was huge. Like if I can get into that for like a second, it's we were in 24 up, me and my brother, and the only reason that we even stepped foot in 24 down is because we played them in Halo almost every day. There's a LAN where you just plug it into the wall and you play people downstairs that were plugged into the wall. So we were playing all the time, day and night, and then we started playing local games with Bustin Jenks and Dingaling or whoever Neil was at the time or some whatever his name was, and they just it was such a close game. Like we'd win some, they probably win more, but it got to a point where like, who are these people? And I remember very vividly me and Fran just being like, we gotta find them. Like this is crazy. And we walked downstairs and we saw Justin playing and Neil and whoever else, and it was just that's kind of for us. That's when it started. We're like, these guys have interests for us. And yeah, it was a year before you came, Hat, and a couple before you, Andrew. But at that time, for us, that's the reason we were there. Because between me and my brother, we were always quiet, shy. We're just like, we're gonna take this corner room, and that's us. We didn't expand. We didn't talk to people. It was only because of Halo at that point that got us downstairs. And then the next semester we moved downstairs because we just had so much in common. But that even seeing that shirt, I was like, this is perfect because for me and Francis, it meant a lot. I'm pretty sure that's how Bowden got introduced to the floor as well because he had such a love for that game as well. Justin Caldwell, he lived off campus my first semester in 2005, and he spent every night in my room when I was sleeping playing Halo 2. So I know that for a lot of us, that's a big deal. So it is nice to see that. I know Fran had a hand in the idea and making it, but it's just, I need all these shirts, and I'm not made of that kind of money.
Well, so let me say this really quick. And firstly, I want to say about the dodgeball shirt and actually the Bucking Buddha shirt, which just came out today. I want to give credit to Tom Rizzo because he helped tremendously with both those designs. Um, the other thing I'm going to say about the shirt or shirts is I know I am like pumping a bunch of these out, but I said it before and I'll say it again. My goal is to have at least one or two shirts that everybody individually can be like, I want this shirt specifically because then they can wear it and every time they wear it, it's going to remind them of 24 down things. With that said, these shirts are not going anywhere. So don't feel like you have to order all 5 or 7 or 9 or 10, whatever it is that you want right now. Order one a month, 2, 3 months down the road, order another one. They're not going anywhere. I can promise you that. So
Well, the next one I need to get is my the one you made for me with the camels on there because that one's a classic. I know I can't wait to see that one. I did buy a new one. I'm gonna wear it for our special episode tomorrow. So all right. So here's the next question from Wolfie. It says, I know you and Francis are identical. Are there limits to your likeness? Like, are even your tongues identical?
I don't even think I've looked at my brother's tongue, but I assume it's identical. Yes. Um, but yeah, our likenesses are a lot more similar than most people think, and for a while, it really pissed us off individually. When it comes to being around a group of people like 24 Down, it was new for us because we always had one or two friends, just something basic. So being around a group of people, there would be times where I can remember very vividly just something happens, people are talking banter, and then all of a sudden I think of something. I'm like, this would be a great thing to say right now. It would make sense. And me and Francis would start it at the exact same time. And we both start to say our sentence, but it would be the same exact sentence, and both of us would cut off after like 2 words and be like, all right, nope. And just kind of like turn around and walk away. Because yeah, it's a lot more than just looks. We always are. It's weird how often we think the same. And one time I was driving somewhere and I had like the worst migraine like I've ever had. I get pretty bad ones, but it was terrible and I didn't know what was happening. I took medicine. I was trying to relax and rest after I got where I was going. And it could be completely unrelated, but I've never had a migraine that bad. But the same day, during the same time, my brother got in a car accident when somebody else was driving. They got T-boned. Glass got shot into his arm, and he had to go to the hospital and whatever. He was fine, but I'd like to think that there was something there tying us together to the point where he was in trouble and danger or something, and mentally it came to me. So I don't think it could be. It's possible.
Well, as you know, my wife's an identical twin, and the bond between twins, I only at least understand a little bit of it just because I'm married to a twin, but I don't get it at all because it's like you said, they think the same, they talk the same, they'll laugh the exact same. They talk in like incomplete thoughts, but they totally know what they're talking about. And I'm like completely lost. Like, and her husband is too. Like, we're both like, what is going on? And they're like laughing, like having this great time. And we're all like, so yeah. So it's the twin thing is very interesting because, I'm sure you guys are connected more, and closer even more than you guys realize because it's
Well,
just such a special connection.
it's at the point now where we can just look at each other and kind of know what we're thinking. Like, depending on the situation, because we know we usually think the same thing. If something happens, we'll just kind of glance at each other and we'll know exactly kind of what we're on. There was one time a small story of I wanted this piece of pizza and this guy took it. And I don't remember if it was 24 down or not, But I was just like so disappointed. I was like, oh man, I really wanted pizza. So I was just like looking at the pizza, and I looked at him, and he looked right at me, and he just like widened his eyes a little bit, and I was like, all right. And then he like tapped the guy on the shoulder, distracted him really hard, and just I stole a piece of pizza and walked away. It was perfect.
All right, so here's the last question from Wolfie, and it's what he's been asking everybody. What building at Valley Forge besides 24 Down would you choose to have named after you?
I wouldn't mind it having the gym during the time of college, but I think now I would like the cafeteria because I like to eat. I don't play so many sports and I like food. So, yeah, the cafeteria, the English cafe, we could call it.
Oh, very fancy.
All right, that's that's stupendous. I was talking to some of the admins the other day, and the point was brought up about how it seems like my transition from question to question or point to point, a lot of times I'll just say, "Oh, awesome," and so now I'm trying to incorporate some other things. So that's why I brought up stupendous. So that's stupendous, Gene.
I've noticed that as well, but you don't only say awesome, but when like you're really just kind of out of it, you're like, for sure, for sure. I'm like, awesome, for sure. I'm like, all right.
Well,
I like,
I have to tell you that stupendous sounded very forced. It did not sound natural.
well, like so when Gene, when I do the like for sure or something like that, it's not that I'm like out of it. I like before they brought this up to me, I already knew that was a thing, and like I hate that I do it. And so like I'll try and switch it up, and like for sure is my other go-to, I guess. So I got to get better. I apologize. People are like, "Okay, this question's over. Ready? Hat's about to say awesome in 3, 2, 1." Awesome. Okay. So um next set of questions here come from Matthias. And the first one says, not really a question, but how are you and Fran so coordinated and talented at everything? And then he says, usually when people go bald, they get uglier, but you guys just get more manly and intimidating.
Well, the coordination thing goes back to we're pretty much good at everything, but not great at anything. I remember in his podcast, he was saying, I didn't expect it at all. I didn't even expect him to remember it, but he said the question was asked, who was your favorite sparring partner? And he went to Dwayne Lee and I think Nate Hanfin. But then he was like, his hands, the English twins. And I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, they pick up on things real quick. They're super fast. Like they're strong. Like it just seems like why? Like I told them so many times if they tried, they could be something. And I was like, yeah. Well, I was thinking of like, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I always try. I just stop trying. Like if I did something long enough and cared enough, I'd probably be great at it. But I just don't. So there's that. Um, as far as being balding goes, I'm not proud of it. But it got to a point where there was like 6 or 7 left up there on top that it just started getting pretty gross. So, well, to me at least, it was just real thin. And so me and my brother one day, he was at my house having dinner, and we just shaved our heads. We got bored. So I'm happy we did it. But then also the next day, every time we showed someone, they were just like, "Man, I would not fuck with you at a bar." And I was like, "That's cool. I'll take it."
Astonishing.
Sorry.
I'm trying here, guys. I'm trying.
Are you googling words?
No, that just can't. All right. His wow, I gotta take a second here. His next question is, do you still play drums?
No, I don't. I haven't in 10, 12 years. Again, another thing I liked, I tried, I was decent at, and then I just stopped caring. I don't know. I have an issue. I guess there's just something wrong. But yeah, I just stopped. I think I traded my drum set for a phone or something after college because I was just like, I'm not going to use this, but I'll take a phone. So yeah, I haven't played drums in quite a while. It's something I think about, like I'd like to do, but I don't know. I'm old. Yeah.
So, Andrew, are you following along here with the set of questions?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have Andrew ask this last question because there's way too many like Christian words in it, and so he's gonna be better at it.
Oh boy, now I'm put on the spot.
Unless you want me to try, and maybe it'll be funnier if I try. All right. He says you have almost all the soul aces. Does that sound right? Soul aces.
I don't think that's
solaces.
Sola.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. So he says you have almost all the soul aces of the Reformation tatted on you. Why not accept John Calvin into your heart today?
Yeah, I read that a little bit, and you were right. It was a little confusing because I didn't know what Soles was, but yeah, it was part of my first. Well, my first tattoo was the Adelphos and my grandfather's dog tag numbers. Um, After that, I decided I wanted these 5 solas. It's Sola Deo Gloria, Sola Fide. What is it, Latin or Greek or something? I don't even know. But I have it on me. I have 4 out of 5 now. But yeah, they're just, for me at that time, that was something. When I told my old youth pastor, he was like, "That's very reformed of you." I was like, "I don't know what that means." I was like, "I just thought this was cool." So to me, it's just, I have sola gratia, which means through grace, through faith alone. Give all the glory to God through Scripture alone. And I know that the 5 of them are um, part of the reformed version of, I guess, Christianity or beliefs or something. But for me, it just individually meant certain things at each time. Like when you're doing something like this, give all the glory to God. When you're thinking about doing something like this, through grace alone, through faith alone, that kind of stuff. So that meant a lot to me. So I'll look into giving my heart to John Calvin, but I think I'll Google it first, and we'll see where I get, because Google's always right.
Well, wowie, wowie, wow. All right. So I have the next set of questions from Mikey, and these are. He wants everything to be one word answer. So he said, "What's one word to describe your 24 down experience?"
Awesome.
Perfect. That's a good word. One word to describe your brother.
Asshole.
Oh, okay. One word to describe his brother, Junior.
Beautiful.
All right. Okay, you can talk more than one word now. So, what's it like having a twin? Do you like it? I know you hit on some of this already, but
Sucks. Oh,
okay.
more than one? Are you sure?
If hey, you're the one answering.
Did I make it awkward for you? I don't know. I feel like my relationship with my brother is much different than Junior and Mikey's. Not that it's a comparison in general, but they seem to always be a little less competitive with each other and always kinder to each other. Yeah, me and my brother, we haven't had that in a while. It took us till, like I said, late to even feel relatively close, like we were brothers. So for me to see how Junior and Mikey acted around each other and how they got along and stuff, it was refreshing, but at the same time, it's also something we didn't have for a while. So being a twin growing up kind of sucked, but being a twin now, it's not terrible. It's also kind of nice because we've been getting each other jobs, so every time one of us shows up to a different job, everybody thinks someone's the other one, and it's just funny. So
Well, yeah, if one of you has good work ethic, then the other one will always get a job because they'll be like, "Hey, that person's like that person."
yeah, exactly. I got him a job that turned 14, and
Perfect.
everybody thought he was me. So it was funny, and he got a job pretty easily. So
Nice. All right. His last question is, "What's your favorite thing to do alone?" And he said, "Don't lie, because we already know the answer."
my favorite thing to do alone. Hey, babe. Can you shut the door? Yeah. Okay. She really is standing there. This is awkward.
Be honest.
I'll be honest. No.
John Calvin is listening.
Damn. I don't know. The favorite thing to do alone right now, I mean, I don't like, honestly, anymore. I don't really like doing anything alone. I play video games. I love having my wife in the room because she has her own things to do sometimes. And I like playing video games with my brother. We met some friends in England because of video games that we're friends with now, and I'd love to visit soon. But yeah, it's just nothing really I like to do alone anymore. It's everything I want to do is with someone. And if I had to choose something right now, I guess it would be riding a motorcycle. Just I also do prefer that with people, but for the sake of the question, because I have ridden alone, it is still freeing, still nice. But so that would be one thing that I would choose is just riding the motorcycle.
Okay, I want to add to this question then. Would you rather ride your motorcycle alone, or would you rather have me holding on to you tight while you speed down the road? Which one would you rather?
That was much more fun than being alone for sure. You were a trip, man. You're like trying to look around me because you're little, and your helmet was hitting me, and you're trying to see how fast we're going. And yeah, I took Andrew out for a ride a couple weeks ago, and I showed him a real bike because I know he used to have a little 125 when he had a motorcycle.
Whoa! Yours did not spit flames that I remember. So
was yours supposed to spit flames or?
No, we cut my dad helped me take the stock muffler off, and we put a vacuum cleaner pipe on it. And when I would rev it really hard, it would shoot flames. But no, it's not supposed to do that.
It was a big chrome pipe we pulled off of an old vacuum cleaner and cut up. It was really funny. No, yeah, it was a lot of fun having you on the back, though. You did well after I told you a few things you need to worry about, so it was fun. Next time, if you come out and you want to do it again, I'll get you faster. I know you're like a little kid, like, go faster. So
yeah, we hit 70. We got to hit triple digits at least.
Oh, I will.
All right, so the next set of questions here come from Tim. His first question is, he wants to know what the last trick you did on a skateboard was.
Falling off. I don't know, man. The last trick I did was maybe an ollie with varial, because I haven't skated in forever. I didn't land it, but I did it, I think, mostly. So that's probably what it is, a varial.
Remarkable. Which car do you think would win in a race? And don't be biased. Nissan GT-R R35 or an Audi R8 V10 Plus, and break down why.
Well, I'm not going to go into too deep of why the answer is because this is the wrong audience for that. But R35 would win off the line. R8 would win in the long run. The R35 is the quickest car off the line, period. Just Japanese people are just crazy. But an Audi R8 would probably be the top end quarter mile, half mile. And that's not being biased. I love the R35 way more than that Volkswagen, but still. R10 would beat it long run. Probably quarter mile, maybe half mile. I'm not going to get into why because I would love to. I could go on forever about that, but I don't. This is the wrong audience. I don't have people to talk to. Nobody's talking back. We'll just leave it at that. Thanks, Tim.
Well, I'll add to that question, actually. Do you think it would be the Nissan GT-R R35, Audi R8, V10 Plus, or my 2013 Chevy Cruze? And you saw it's pretty hot.
It's really clean.
It's hot.
It's turbo, too. It's turbo.
Had 2 racing seats in it.
Yeah. It's turbocharged. It's once we put that spoiler I had in my garage laying around on it, it was just scary, man. Definitely the Cruze.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm driving a cool car now. So I got Rizzo's questions next. And he said, you got a lot of twin questions. What is your most favorite part of being a twin, and what is your least favorite part of being a twin?
Most favorite, I guess, would be interests. We have a lot of the same interests dating back to high school and sports and stuff. Now we're drift cars, motorcycles. if I'm into something, he relatively gets into it pretty quickly. If he's into something, I'll relatively into it pretty quickly. It's actually really nice because if I get into something, I don't always have the same pressure to get to a certain point, like build a car, build a drift car, do more stuff to my motorcycle. But with him there, he's like, oh, I got one too, and these are the things I want to do to it. And I'm like, oh, well, I want to do them too. And then he'll be like, I want to do it. So the best part is we complement each other with our interests easily: video games, cars, motorcycles. Um, the worst part is he's an asshole. So
Yeah, you did make us aware of that. So
no, no. The worst part is um, probably, like I said earlier, the worst part is easily just awkwardness of how we're always usually thinking the same. And so we're not so competitive anymore, but always having the same things in our minds. Question: we always have to slow down before we start to talk because the other one says it a lot of times. So yeah, the worst part is just how alike we are.
he says, so do you like cars or motorcycles more now?
I did see that one, and I couldn't name it off the top of my head. Um, I do have a drift car. It is cage built, ready for the track, and just going sideways and stuff. Maybe I'll take you out for that, Andrew, next time you come up. Um, but as of recent, motorcycles are just becoming almost a passion. Like they're mechanically, they're the same things. You know, they're just engines and bits and pieces around it, and wheels, bearings, all that kind of stuff. It's cheaper than building a car specifically meant for a track. It's cheaper than buying a car that is your dream that you love. And honestly, I've cruised hundreds of times with my friends in cars and all our low cars, our fast cars, whatever. But there's nothing like cruising with a bunch of friends on your motorcycles. Like you have the road to yourself. You're a lot more free. It's quite a bit quicker, and it's just something about that bonding is better than being in cars. So I'm gonna have to say right now I'm more into motorcycles.
All right. Well, maybe one day I'll come over and cruise with you guys again. So his last question is, he said, "What's your favorite video game of all time?"
I saw that one too, and that's hard. Um, right now we're into some games. Oh man, that's rough. It's hard because Halo 2 is what got us into these kind of video games and college and our friends, in my instance, just going downstairs and seeing who's on the other end of always beating us or always beating them, whatever. So I'm gonna have to say Halo 2 because it just brought a whole new first-person spectrum to us, a whole type of online play, the customability of the game you could change in certain areas, and yeah, definitely Halo 2.
So this next set of questions here is from Buddha. Actually, I want to say something before I do that, because you talk about like your favorite game and being Halo 2. And I just wanted to touch on this a little bit because I know how big video games are for you. Um like for me, I'm not like I've always been a sports video game guy. I'll play NHL, I'll play FIFA, I'll play like WWE, like what, and that's pretty much it. Guitar Hero, obviously. But I remember you guys were playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 constantly. And it like you'd always be like, "Yeah, hat can play, hat can play." And I never played like a shooter really. And at one point, I don't know what it was. I think I like started like playing just a little bit. And like obviously like the first time or two I played with you guys, I was just terrible. Still never at the end I never even got that good. But it got me to a point where I was like, well, I'm buying an Xbox 360 because I need to get Modern Warfare 2 to be able to play online with these guys and everything like that. And so for me, like, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite game ever, but Modern Warfare 2, like the memories I have from like playing with you guys, and that led into Modern Warfare 3, which like one of my favorite memories, I'm just going to share this really quick. One of my favorite memories of Modern Warfare 3, we were I'm pretty sure it's when we were living with my buddy Dan. And me and Gene and Francis decided to have a game night, and we played Modern Warfare 3 up in Gene's room. But rather than like play locally together, Gene had his TV that he normally had. Francis brought his TV over from the apartment they were at. I brought my TV upstairs from downstairs. So we had 3 different TVs, 3 different Xbox 360s or whatever, all set up, just playing next to each other. And it was like, to this day, that's like one of my favorite memories. So it's cool to hear you say like how Halo 2 means so much to you because of the connection with the 24 Down family. And I feel that same way with Call of Duty Modern Warfare, is because like you guys forced me into playing that. And like I said, I never was that great at it, but like I had such a blast playing that game with you guys.
If I can expand on that for just a second, I remember that night very vividly. And I remember just, we walked upstairs, you were ready, me and Fran went to go get a drink or something. And we're like, all the Xboxes were on, they were all on the same home screen, ready to go. And you were like the go-to guy for the A, B, or C. You throw smoke on everything. You had your class set up, and we were all ready. It was like the second or third time we'd done it, and you just said something that stood out in my mind. And we walked up and we're like ready to go, and you looked back in the middle by yourself, and you're just like, people about to get fucked up, and we're just like, we just died laughing. But it was, I had to say that it was funny.
Yeah, I like at first I didn't know where you were going with that story, and then like I don't know, 10 seconds into it, I was like, oh yep, I know exactly where it's going. I don't know what made me say that, but I just like it was that confidence. So that was another thing, is like playing those games. Like again, I was not that good. Like you said, we like my favorite game type was domination, where you just like run around and you capture the 3 different locations. And all I did was throw smoke out there and capture. Like I didn't care about my kill death ratio. I was there to capture. But like for me, it was so much fun playing with you guys because you guys were so damn good at the game that it was like I knew I was going to win 9 times out of 10 because you guys were on the team. Like it didn't matter who we were playing, it didn't matter who else was on our team. I knew there's a very, very high chance we're going to win because I got Gene and Francis, and that's pretty much all you need at this point. So
Yeah, those were great times, man.
for sure, for sure. All right, so this next set of questions here comes from Buddha. His first question is he wants to know your best roommate and your worst roommate.
In college, huh? That's easy. The worst one's easy. Um, I don't know how, but for some reason, Phil Sabella from the soccer team wanted to be my roommate. I guess we got along while playing soccer together, and that was short lived because he did not like that we were all up and loud. He didn't like that we didn't go to bed at a decent time. He was always literally yelling at me if the TV was on after like 8 or 9 o'clock. If it was dark out. Um, I just remember him being like, "Yo, what are you doing? It's so bright." And I remember turning around and looking at him and being, "Close your eyes." And I was just a massive dick. He was just being whatever. And after like a few weeks, he moved out. And I think that's when everything started happening with me living in or moving in with James for a little bit. I bounced around a lot. I had a ton of roommates, but that was by far the worst. Um, Outside, obviously, my favorite was the other 3 in 117. So
Impressive. Um, so his next question is favorite sport. Sorry, favorite sport and sporting event played with 24 down.
oh God, you're hilarious. Um, Favorite sporting event? Uh, it's either between dodgeball or our own tackle football league, which was, I guess, part of the Patriot Bowl because that was flag football. Tackle league was a lot of fun. Um, I didn't play a huge role as a wide receiver. I caught a few balls that were kind of cool, but it was fun learning all the plays with Nate because those guys were crazy into football. Him and Justin Banks and Buddha, they were all just solid football players and they understood everything. At the time, I was just like, I'll run. I don't know. But that was a lot of fun to learn when we were practicing. They would teach me the plays, what they meant, what all the call outs are. So that had to be one of the best I was involved in. Either that or dodgeball for obvious reasons. We just were so good at that. I don't know why. But those definitely football and dodgeball for sure.
Phenomenal. He wants to know your coolest and weirdest guy on 24 Down.
Coolest guy. Weirdest guy. Coolest. I think the weirdest guy for me in 24 Down was Matt Wolf. He just held himself so awkwardly, but I loved him. Like, he was such a great guy to be around. He was such a great friend. He was always there when we were doing wrestling things, and he was always trying to be like a part of it and everything. And he was just, besides, I think I'm gonna say he's weird because he's so into Fords. It's so stupid. Anyways, so he's the weirdest, but I still loved him. I still respected him. I loved when he was part of. I mean, times he would ever get touched, he would just ragdoll and flop. But I think that kind of added to it. But it was really always fun being around him. So when I say weird, I don't mean it in a negative way. So that was that. But for what was that, like, best or
Coolest?
coolest? For me, the coolest. The question's not shortest. No, for me, the coolest, honestly, I have to admit, I think was Andrew for me. He was there a lot for me when I was going through some things with an ex. He was really right there for me. He was also big when I was in a dark area, a dark time during college. He saw it, and I went to him a lot about it. He ended up taking me down to Tennessee for Easter or something for an extra few days. I think I was struggling with some image problems with my brother and certain things, and I just came to him. And I didn't ask for anything, but I was just like, "Hey, this is what's going on." And he was like, "Hey, why don't you just come down? Like, just you, nobody else. We'll just have a weekend." So that kind of stuff really stood out. The time, so between those and then him coming up, I was just like, "Hey, you want to come up and drag race your truck?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So he came up for the weekend to my house. We went to a local drag strip. He raced. I still have the video. I saw that recently.
You actually paid
Yeah.
for the gas because I was broke and I didn't.
I did, yeah. It was like, and we filled your tank, which at the time was wrong because it just weighed you down. We paid
Exactly.
like $60.
Exactly.
But yeah, just all those times for me. When I say cool, I mean it in like the best person to be around for me at the time was probably Andrew, and then somebody I always looked up to, and possible outside of Andrew was also you had. I always wanted to be where you were. You were always fun. You're always giving. You're always trying new things, moving out and recording and stuff. So as far as cool goes, Andrew, because he was always there for me, and Hat because I always just wanted to be where you were because everything followed somehow. So
Well, I appreciate that. I can't agree with you on the first part of it, but the second part I really like. But Andrew, I'll give you a second if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And then because you said that, then I felt really stupid for clearing my throat. But no, I really appreciate it. But that when you came down to visit Tennessee, that's when we broke down on the side of the road, and we had my bike in the back of my dad's truck, and we were taking pictures, pretending we were like riding it because we were waiting for like someone to come and fix it. So we were just stuck on the side of the road with my dad. But like you said, it was such a good time just getting to hang out. But no, I
yeah,
appreciate it.
that trip sucked though because I remember on the way back we brought one of his rat rod and your motorcycle, and it was like a 12-hour trip. So that was rough. But besides that, it was all pretty good.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I'm honored that you would say that, and we had awesome times together. I look forward to more. So
One of the things that like I truly love about this podcast is the fact that like so we're following along. We've got all, in this particular segment we're doing questions. We're following along, asking the questions in order, but then like things pop up here and there and we'll go a different direction for a little bit because a memory just popped up. And so I'm going to do that here really quick before we continue on Buddhist questions. Um, Andrew, you talked about like the whole like breaking down and everything like that. And so there's a story that I wanted to bring up, and I think now's a great time because it's a good transition, um, that I want to hear Gene's perspective on. And I'll give you the quick backstory. The quick backstory, and I think I shared this on another podcast, was This is my second stint of living in Pennsylvania. After school was done, I moved back home and then came back to Pennsylvania. And I was living with Gene the whole time, and then Francis for a good chunk of it too. Well, they both had Maximas, and I was like, well, if they got Maximas, I need a Maxima, you know? And so, long story short, I found a Maxima on Craigslist. It was about an hour away. Price was right, mileage, all that kind of stuff. So, decided like I'm gonna go look at this car and more than likely buy it. So, Gene drove me there, and then the plan was like, obviously he would drive me there. We'd look at it. If it was right, I'd buy it, and then we'd drive back in each car or whatever. And that's exactly what happened. We went, looked at the car, seemed good, bought it, stopped to get gas, and then we hopped on the highway to head back home. And this is where I'm going to let Gene take over.
That was one of the scariest nights of my life. I know we used to, after it happened, we were like, I saved your life with a butter knife because some reason I had a butter knife in my glove box. I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. But it was just hilarious because we got this, we picked up your car. Fran looked at it on his honeymoon he was on? They must have been bored. I don't know.
Yeah, it was his honeymoon. He just looked at it visually. He didn't test drive.
Yeah. So we looked at it while the owner was there and everything checked out. It seemed fine. Tires, brakes, all that kind of stuff. I was just kind of there helping him out. So we start driving home and it's dark. We're like, whatever. It's like a little over an hour and mostly highways. So I'm in the cars at the time and I'm used to driving kind of quick and weaving and stuff. And so me and Hat were kind of doing that. He sped up real quick, kept up with me, and I was going around a truck or something, and he got like real close to me, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And I sped up quicker, and then I got into the lane, and I just was like, all right, cool. And then like he didn't get over with me. I just remember that. I was like, why doesn't he get over? Like he's just following me because he doesn't care that much about what we're doing. And I just get a phone call. And we had fun for about 5-10 minutes. We're dicking around, being fast and idiots driving. And he calls me, and I was like, I just picked up the phone. I was like, yo, what's up, man? And we're all happy because we got a new car. Like, I'm trying to act happy. And he's like, yo, my car won't stop. It just won't stop. And I'm like, what? And like, as soon as he says my car won't stop, I look to my left, and I see Hat stretched out as far as possible, hitting the brake as hard as he could. And all I see is red brakes. They're bright red, shooting sparks. And that was scary because he's on the phone looking at me doing like 100 miles an hour and holding his brakes so hard that the brakes are red hot, shooting sparks. Easily, the solution would be put the car in neutral. But I was freaking out, and I think you brought this up when you brought it up too. But I also freaked out. I didn't tell you, and told him. And we were coming up to a construction zone. So it was going to be one lane soon. It was going to be like now or you're screwed. So I'm freaking out because all I see is red hot brakes sparking and he can't stop the car. So I was like, oh, maybe try to start slowly pulling up the e-brake and you'll start to come to a stop. And I'm on the phone with him and he gets in front of me because he's just going way too fast. And he starts to pull over onto the shoulder. Like he's like, oh yeah, I'll try it. And he starts to pull up the e-brake slowly. It did nothing, but for a second I was like, oh, it's working. And then all of a sudden I see him jerk back and he goes, it's not working. And then we see a sign. It's like road work, half a mile, road work. And it's like, oh crap. And then it just came to me. I was like, it's automatic. Just put it in neutral. And he goes, oh, okay. So I told him he puts it in neutral. And I was like, while it's in neutral, don't use the brakes. Just let it come to a stop. Like you'll come to a stop quick, whatever. He's like, all right. He puts it in neutral. He comes to a stop, and his brakes are just basically on fire when he finally came to a stop. Both of us were like, out of breath, couldn't breathe. We were like freaking out. Our hearts were racing. So we got out of the car, and the first thing I did is I walk up to him. We just gave each other a hug because we were just like, Hat's gonna die today. Like, that's what it was. And then I looked at the engine, and it's basically a hose clamp had come off. It's just a little circle that goes around a hose. That's it. And when you tighten it, it tightens the hose. It got loose, and there's a little nub on it. It spun around on the hose because it was loose and got jammed on the other side of the throttle body. So the wire that he was using to hit his gas got caught on the other side of it at full throttle. And he's just sitting there going, it's not stopping. And so I didn't have any tools with me, and I had a butter knife. and it just fit. So I just used a butter knife. I took the whole thing off basically and redid it so it wouldn't be an issue. And then we sat there for like a half an hour, let his brakes cool down. But after that, for a while, we're like, you saved your life with a butter knife. But yeah, that was scary, man. I've never seen brakes that red hot or shooting that many sparks. It was crazy.
I remember obviously like you said, the first thing we did, like when I finally was able to stop, was just hug. Like just like thank God. We probably had a good like 5 or 6 cigarettes in a matter of like 10 minutes. It was just like, dude, it was so stressful.
We were lighting cigarettes with cigarettes we were smoking already.
Well, that explains why you like cutlery so much and got a tattoo of a fork.
Right.
You
Right.
didn't get a knife though. You
I
didn't get
know.
a knife.
Well, I'm just saying it explains somewhat.
All right, so back onto the questions here. Buddha's next question is he wants to know your favorite 24 down wrestling moment.
I could tell you my least favorite was fighting Nate Canfin. That dude punches hard. Shit, man. I watched it again the other day with one of my friends. Like me and my brother are watching it. And I'm just around fighting Nate Canfin, and I couldn't even ragdoll. I curled up in a little thing, and you can hear his punch. It was just like, and I was like, yeah, those were real. That hurt so bad. But as far as best goes, man, I don't know. I think helping, if I could, editing the videos with Hat was probably one of my favorite parts because it was just so poorly played with the hall lights and people's hands trying to be it. All of the wrestling by itself was great, but I think just hanging around with Hat and being able to edit it and help him if I could was probably my best part of it, my favorite part of the wrestling.
It's funny that you say that. Like I forgot about that until you said it, but I don't know. So with the 24 down wrestling videos, a good chunk of them got like just cut off from YouTube because I always just put in songs to like play over the video. At the time it was not a big deal, and then all these copyright laws came into play and everything like that. So a good chunk of the videos are gone forever. I don't have them. Pisses me off. So whatever. I don't know if this is one of them, but there is maybe a few, but there's one video I remember in particular, and we would do the wrestling at that whatever that lounge was, kind of by the merch store, near the chapel, all that, whatever. But we would do the entrances, at least for the first few videos, we would do the entrances down our hallway, and then I just splice it in. And there's a video. It's so funny. Like if you watch it, because we, like Gene said, we were flicking lights back and forth to like have like a strobe effect. And if you watch, like you look down the hall and you just see this arm like come out, and it's like flipping the light up and down and up and down. So it's so funny. I wonder if that video is still on there. I'd have to look.
Yeah, that was part of the one with when the first Bentley came in, and we were watching it, and that's what happened. I wasn't sure what the entrance would be, but I just remember you see us walking out of a room, and you just look down the hallway, and you see an arm, and people are like, "What are you laughing at?" We're like, "That's somebody's arm flicking the lights." And I was like, the only reason there's a strobe effect is because there's a dude flicking them there, and the lights are so crappy that they're not turning on at the same time. So there's like this one turns on, then this one, then off, and then it's like it works better than it should.
For sure. So his last question is a reoccurring question for Buddha. He wants to know what your favorite Buddha moment was.
My favorite Buddha moment. This one's easy for me because I've been thinking about it since the podcast started and Buddha was on. Everybody knew at the time Buddha liked being scared. Oh, he didn't like being scared. He was easily scared. I don't know if he liked it. I'm sure we'll get to that, but he was easily scared. So people were always trying different ways to scare him. Actually, I have two to say, just to try to remind me. My favorite Buddha moment was there's that game we used to play to get people to get scared, and it was like a little dot that you moved through a maze, and you had to get to the end of the maze, and it would change, and then you'd have to keep going, and then it would get skinnier, so you have to get closer to the screen and closer to the screen. And I remember just at the end, like this crazy face popped up and just screamed at you. And we did that in your old room, I think, down at the other end of the hallway. Everything was pitch black, and everybody was in there. And I think it was recorded too. and he just screamed like a little girl, jumped up. I think he got behind some curtains or something. It was the funniest thing I ever seen. So that's probably my favorite Buddha moment. That was just hilarious how easily he was scared. Um, and now I forget the second thing I was going to say. Oh yeah, in Buddha, in his, I think it was in his podcast, or somebody else might have brought it up. Maybe it was Junior. Um, he they were talking about the part where Buddha just got everybody out in the hallway, and everybody was just like, "All right, cool, whatever." And he pulled everybody out in the hallway, and then he banged on Carlos's door and yelled really loud and ran away just to see us all scatter. That, I think that was his birthday. I'm pretty sure that was his birthday. So he was like, "So it's my birthday, everybody come out!" Like that's what he used to get us out, and we were all like, "Of course, dude, it's your birthday." And before we knew it, he was running and screaming, and all of us were like just hiding in stalls and behind couches and stuff. It was. I just had to add on to that because I remember that pretty well too.
I think you're absolutely right. Now that I think about it, I like that's for sure what it was, his birthday.
All right, so I have the last set of questions for you. They're from Junior, and his first question is, who has more tattoos, you or your brother?
I have more. I have almost a full sleeve. I got to work on a little bit of, and that's done. My chest is all done. My sides. Um, that's it for now. But he's got a half sleeve. I think the same one you have, Andrew, more or less. And
Yeah,
then
the top part, the stained glass.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's got the ones we got, the Adelphos and my grandfather's dog tag numbers on his legs, and then a little bit of brick on his back with 24 down, and that's it. So I have considerably more.
Yeah, take that, Francis. So Junior's next question says, where does yours and your brother's caveman beard genes come from?
I wish I knew. You know, this question's harder than it seems because everyone in my family, as old as they are, have a full head of hair. Like my grandfather, he just passed away, but he was 95 and he had great hair. My father has great hair. I don't know him, but he's got great hair in his pictures. Um, my uncles, like I don't know anyone that's bald. Like, it sucks. So wherever that went, maybe that's why I got a beard because I don't have hair and they do, and now I got a beard. So that it must have just come from there. Instead of having it on my head, it just was like, screw it, just grow on your face.
No, so the last thing he wants to say is, he says, seriously, are you ever going to pay or replace my 1990 Hyundai Accent doorknob you broke the day we went to C300?
Dude, that car was such a piece of junk. What do you want me to do, man? Like, I remember that really well too. I felt so bad, but I was so poor. Yeah, bro, just message me and I'll pay you. I don't care. But I just remember so well. Like we walked out to the gravel parking lot. Everybody's getting in their different cars, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll ride with you, Juge, whatever." And it had just snowed, and then it like iced over on top. So all the cars that were cleaned off were just frozen stiff, like right all over the cars. And I just remember being like, I don't know why it happened, to be honest, but I just walked up and I was like, all right, I'll just get in. And I just pulled the handle and the whole thing came off. And I'm just holding it like, and I like looked at him and he's like, what? And I was like, do you want this? And he's like, you broke the handle? I was like, it's frozen. Yeah, I broke it. And he didn't seem too mad. That car, I don't think he cared about too much. He did like it, but I don't think he cared about it that much. I remember driving and I had no power steering, and it was the hardest thing I've ever driven in my life. But yeah, I would definitely get you for that, Juge. If you hit me up on Facebook, you can text me. My number has changed, I'm sure, since last you had it.
Yeah, probably.
But I went through a lot of numbers, sir. Yeah, just hit me up. I mean, we can at least catch up, and I'll take you out to dinner for it. How about that? Just you and me.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we're done with the questions. So we actually have a special thing going on here. So because we had just went over to your house a couple weekends ago, my girls wanted to come down and actually say hi. So I'm gonna let them come down here and jump on, and they'll talk to you a little bit, and then after that, I'm actually gonna have to get off. So
All
I'll
right.
say my piece, and then I'll let you and Hat finish it off. But so I'm trying to get the girls now, Hat, if you want to do some filler.
Yeah, well, I know. I believe Sarah wanted to come down also and say hello as well. So I don't know, Gene, if
Yeah,
you
I'll do
want
that. Just
let
do
her, let her
your
know. Yeah, I got you. So, well, while Gene's doing that, I think this is a probably good time as any. I will put the podcast plugs in right now. So, um, Twitter. If you are on Twitter and you want to follow us, I basically pretty much just post the episodes when they air. You could follow us. Our Twitter handle is at 24 Down Podcast. If you want to email us for any reason, 24downpodcast@gmail.com. Facebook pages, we got two. Actually, I think there's more than two, but two main ones. There's one for the podcast page, which you can like. It's a public page. There's also a group page, and that's private. So for those of you who may not be in that group page yet, get a hold of somebody that is, and we will get you in that group page. YouTube, we've got a YouTube account. We post all these podcasts up there. We also post some other videos as well. And then lastly is our Store Frontier website. That's where you can get the 24 Down logo shirt, the 24 Down podcast shirt. You can get an array of multiple different shirts. Check that out. It is storefrontier.com/24 down. So those are the plugs. And with that, we are going to let some people say hi. So I will let you guys take it away.
All right. So I got my and girls, look who it is. Who's that? Remember Eugi and Sarah?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. You guys gonna come over and hang out with us soon?
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna. We still have the pictures you drew for us, and we have them on the fridge still. So you gotta come draw. You gotta come draw some more for us.
Oh, look, Sarah. She has new earrings in.
Oh
I love it.
wow!
I have new earrings.
They're shiny hearts.
Oh
Oh
wow.
wow!
Very pretty.
So
I
asked-
also
I
have
asked-
new earrings in.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, he has earrings too, see? So I asked Eugene your questions you wanted me to ask him. Do you want to tell Eugene a joke? Why don't you tell him a joke? No.
Oh, I don't want
You what? Stop. Why don't you tell him a joke? No? All right. Oh, okay. All right. So are you girls all done? You want to say more?
No.
No. Well, I mean, okay. Well, she did say that. Well, hey, I want you to say bye. Say bye to them.
Bye.
Hi.
Here, say bye.
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 All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming down. Hey, no. All right. All right, you go upstairs and I'll be done, okay? Thanks for coming on, girls. All right.
Daddy,
Yeah?
after this, could you watch me with my students?
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna
All right. Go upstairs quick. All right. Let me.
Astounding. That's all I could say is astounding.
Just don't say anything, Hat.
I think Andrew's muted right now, but I know he's trying to say something. But
Oh,
All right.
I was.
Nice.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I had a feeling that's how it might go, but they did want to see you, so that was they remember you and Sarah, so that's good.
Awesome. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
good seeing him.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll say my piece and then I'm gonna have to jump off here, but I just wanted to tell you that you have been a good friend, such a good friend for, I mean, I graduated in 2008. I came in 2006. So 2.5 years. It's funny when we talk about these podcasts, even Simmons was only there for a year and it felt like so much longer. So even for me, 2.5 years has just felt like such a long time. And, the friendships that I've been able to forge with you guys has just been awesome. But I want to tell you on a serious note that I know that, you had a lot of twin questions and we make jokes and all that stuff, but you and your brother are completely different. And there's so many things about you that we love. And so that's why we didn't have like an English twin podcast, like we wanted to have you on because you are awesome. And so I've had so many good memories with you too, just like, well, I remember like when I first started to hang out with you guys and I met you to go, I think to your house for the first time or what, but I was sitting in my truck and that's how we instantly bonded. Like we were going to hang out, but then we like bonded over because I had that truck. But just there's been so many good times sitting and talking with you, spending time with you traveling. I always just want the best for you and, and Sarah, I hope I get to know her better. And, but dude, you're a great friend, so just always know that. And we're not too far away, just under 2 hours. So it's not too bad. So we'll try to make the trip some more and come up and visit. But
Yeah, dude. Well, we're more than grateful to have you nearby. We're more than willing to make that trip as well. We know it's more difficult when you have kids to make any kind of trip. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely be in touch for sure, man. And I appreciate everything you've ever done for me and been for me in the times that I needed. I'll never forget those things. And it's been 12 years since most of us have left. 10 for me because I'm terrible at school. Um, but yeah, it's not going to change. Who you are is who you are, and that's who we always love about you. So I'm really grateful to have had you in my life during those times, and moving forward, I can't wait to have more good times.
for sure, man. Well, I'm so glad I got to be on this podcast with you and, love you. And I look forward to making some more memories.
All right, love you, man.
All right. See ya.
All right, so I know we're we're done with the question segment, and there's pretty much two kind of like sub segments left, and the first is just some stories that you wanted to touch on, and then I know you wanted to kind of give out some special personal messages. So um, I guess we can start with the stories, some of the stories you wanted to go. And I know one of the first things you wanted to talk about was something with Michael Wilson in soccer. So I'll let you kind of do that.
Oh yeah, dude. When I was listening to his podcast yesterday or the day before, and he was talking about how we were the first people he met on campus because he also came early for soccer. And I mean, granted, it's been 15 years now since that happened, but damn, bro, like that brought up so many memories because I remember him, and I knew for some reason I knew him better you know than I thought because I was like, there's something about him I just remember, but I just don't remember anything about him, but I know him. And I remember that. I remember being so pissed, Mike, like so pissed that you chose music over soccer. You brought that up in your podcast, and I can't really live it down, man. Like we didn't have a lot of friends. We were there early too. We got suspended for stealing a fridge, obviously. But yeah, when we got back, we became the team bitch. Like our coach would intentionally not bring anything to practice. We'd all show up, and they'd make us back and get it to the gym and come on. It was terrible. But I remember going through that training for the week and then maybe a little after, a couple weeks after, and just being like, all right, this dude's awesome. He's funny. He's easy to get along with. He's on the same floor as us or building at least. He was in 24 down. And then it just clicked as soon as you said it. And I was like, I remember being so mad. And then, because as soon as you took music over soccer, it's basically I didn't see you for months. Like, because you did say to yourself, you stopped caring, you stayed in your room, and I didn't know what happened to you. But yeah, that was huge because I definitely remember now. You were one of the first person we met, one of the nicest guys we met. You were funny, and then I remember being so pissed. He took, like, because me and my brother and my buddy Matt were all living in the room together upstairs. And we're like, yo, we could start going to practice and stuff, a month into the school year. And we're just like, where's Mike? Where'd he go? Like, what happened? And then, like, word got out and somebody got back to us, and the coach or something at the end of practice was like, oh, yeah, he couldn't, conflicted with his music schedule and the times he had to play music. And I was so mad. Granted, the year sucked anyways. It was a terrible soccer team. So I was just more pissed that we didn't get to hang out more. And then you secluded yourself. And honestly, from that point on, I don't even remember seeing you. Like, at that point, like how it says in beginning his first years, like, he was good. He went to chapels. He did these things. I did the same, and I still didn't see you. So, I mean, come years later, I didn't barely go at all. So we were a little worried, but at the same time, we kind of just met other people from 24 Down and then fit in there. But I just had to bring that up because I was like, he said it, and as soon as he did, I remembered it like it was yesterday. And, I'm glad that you did what you had to do, but I wish you would have just done soccer.
Well, I know you wanted to. You also wanted to bring up a story about Simmons and a bridge.
Oh yeah, from Hillcast, he was talking about us taking him down some creepy bridge, like we were gonna kill him or something. It was just a bridge going from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, right by my house. And Simmons, I didn't remember this story till you said it either, so apparently my memory is as bad as hats. So it's just like, I remember going to this bridge all the time, before you, after you, with all friends and stuff. But yeah, this bridge was like 60 feet high off the ground, or all over the river. And it's like an old school bridge. So it had big archways all the way across, just big archways going from side to side. And you could crawl down the middle of the pillar that goes into the river. So the ladder, now I feel bad. Like, because the way you were complaining about it, like, yeah, I get it. It's sketchy as shit. Like, this was like I think the bottom 5 to 6 feet of the ladder was broken off. So even when you got down, you had to jump, and then to get back up, you had to climb, and the ladder was breaking off the concrete. It was so sketchy. But once you got down into the middle pillar, there was a little doorway that would allow you to crawl out into the archways that had little archways inside it. So it would get smaller and smaller and more claustrophobic as you go. But for us during the day, it was beautiful. You could sit over the river. It was just somewhere we like to take, like, our closest friends. So for you being there, that was huge for us. We didn't show that to anybody. Like, growing up there, I probably showed 3 people besides you. And it was huge that you came with us. I kind of feel bad that you felt. Honestly, I can't feel that bad because I'm pretty sure you're John Simmons. You would have said something, and you definitely did say something. You were probably going down this whole. I think I remember you starting to go down this manhole-sized ladder and being like, I don't know if we should do this. I don't think should we. Are you sure, guys? And yeah, I remember you being sketchy then too. But at least it paid off. We got a good story out of it, right?
I mean, it was a story. I think, like, I may have heard parts of the story prior, but, like, it was cool hearing, like, his version and now your version as well. So I agree, it's a good story. You wanted to talk about some of the paintball as well.
Oh yeah, there was one thing in paintball I wanted to bring up, and I know Neil probably doesn't listen to this, but he was a big part in this because he just, oh my god, he pissed me off so much. So we got these slate mounds in our backyard, as most of you know, who showed up, who didn't. It was perfect for paintball, and then at the end of the day, we did one of two things. We did the death line, where we all just lined up and shot each other till we were out of paintballs. That blew. And the second thing we did, there's a little island of trees, and around it was a perfect path. So for some reason, we decided to put 2 teams, or a team on each side, and then just run around and shoot each other until everybody was shot. So we were doing that. We're running around in circles, chasing each other on teams or whatever. It was really weird. But I remember me being the last ones, and I ran out of bullets. I ran out of paintballs. So I'm sitting there running in circles like an idiot. And he finally catches up to me. He does like a dodge and goes back the other way. And so he shoots me. And I was like, oh, man, he got me. But he didn't stop shooting me until he was out of paintballs. I was screaming at him. I was so pissed because he was just like walking up to me a foot, 2 feet away. Like, oh, yeah, I got you. And I'm just like, I was screaming, cussing him out. I was like, you got to stop this shit. Like, oh, my God. I was yelling. It hurt so bad. So paintball was always fun having people over, but Neil just didn't get the hint. He hit me so many times.
Another thing, speaking of like, people being over, you wanted to bring up a story about Samsung, a time that he was over there.
Yeah, he didn't. I guess that wasn't brought up previously, and it's something that really stuck out in my mind because we always like taking people to those slate mountains because Bangor, where we grew up in the Poconos, all the mountains were made of slate. It was a huge mining area for things that were used to be used with slate because they don't use it anymore, chalkboards, stuff like that, tables. So we just liked it was beautiful up there. You could get up and see all the mountains, all the trees and stuff. So we brought Samsung home kind of often. Like he came over 2 or 3 times, maybe more. Snowboarding, he came down a couple times. But the one time I wanted to get into was we climbed the mountain, which was one of the biggest ones. It was fun. It was snowy. It was sketchy. Slate doesn't sit like rocks. It's all on top of each other, and if you step on it, pretty much the whole thing could slide out because it's all flat. So it was sketchy. But then once we got done climbing, we came back down, and then there's a like a little pond basically at the bottom of it, and I remember very well. Like we were like, let's go on it. It's frozen. It's got to be frozen. Whatever. And so we started climbing down this thing, and we got onto this frozen pond, and a police officer shows up on the street on the other side of the pond. Granted, he couldn't get to us. He got out onto the pond too, but he had his flashlight on it or his spotlight on us, and his over the intercom was like, "What are you guys doing?" And me, Sam, and Francis just looking at each other like, "Oh man, like we got caught doing something. Like we don't know whose property it is, whatever." And I remember as soon as it happened, he started scaring us, and all 3 of us just as fast as we could ran up this snow mountain, ran through the woods, and got back home. I just thought it would be fun to share because I know we've done a lot of fun things with Samsung. He's created a lot of fun words, a lot of fun memories, but that was something personal for me and probably my brother as well, that if we had stayed out there longer and this cop decided to do something about it, we could have been in big trouble, but we were not.
So another thing that you wanted to bring up, and to be honest, I don't know exactly where this is going. Maybe I will as soon as you start talking about it, but you were talking about maybe potentially bringing up a reoccurring nightmare.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to that because it does reflect 24 down in a way, but it also reflects the time not spent in class. It's just a vivid dream where I'm going through a whole semester. Like the dream pretty much sums up the semester. I'm hanging out with you guys. I'm doing dumb stuff, wrestling, whatever. I go to like 1 or 2 chapels. Like somehow this dream fits all that memory into it. So I know that that's what's happening. And it's like 3 months into the semester, usually out of a 4 or 5 month semester, whatever. And I remember that I was given a class that I forgot about since day one. And in my dream, I just remember my life sinking into nothing and being like, I've just wasted all this time with my best friends. And there's a class that I didn't even show up to once. And yeah, that's happened like 20 times. And it's very unsettling. But at the same time, every time I wake up, I'm like, okay, it wasn't real. And then I'm like, well, to be honest, there was one semester I failed 3 out of 5 classes. So what's the difference? Like, it can't be that bad of a dream if it's not that far off.
Dude, it is so crazy that you say that. Because I have a similar reoccurring nightmare, and I can't give you like exact details, but like it's essentially along the same lines of like I'm stuck. Like it's almost like I'm stuck at school and like I have to finish school, but like there's this class that I just keep not going to, and I'm like, well, I'll get to it next semester, and then because of that I'm there that next semester. I'm like, okay, I'll get it done, and then it happens again, and where I like don't go to class ever, and it's like halfway through the semester and I'm like, I haven't gone to this class. Oh, I guess I failed it again. I'll take it again the next year. And so it's like it's crazy that you have that because like I have a very similar one.
Yeah, it really is just like that. It's like, oh man, well, I'll do it. But then you're like, oh, is it worth it? Like, oh, well, whatever. it's the same thing, but like I always wake up in a panic. Like I just threw away all this. For some reason, it's always worse than it seems. Like in the dream, I'm like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I missed an entire class. And in reality, I failed most of them anyways. Like, but it is like, it was just like that. It's the same thing. Like you don't, for some reason, it just wasn't there. And then all of a sudden it is. You're like, I didn't go to a single one.
I wonder who else out there has dealt with the same thing. All right, well, so that at least covers, as far as I know, pretty much all the stories you wanted to touch on. I don't know if there's more stories that you wanted to touch on or not. I know you also kind of want to do some personal messages, which we can get to in a little bit here. I've got a story or two that I want to bring up, but I want to give you the platform if there's any other stories that we haven't got to that you want to touch on prior.
The only thing I can think of is one I'm pretty sure you want to bring up anyways, because you said it in other podcasts that you were like, "I'll just wait for his episode," and I was just dreading having to tell that story.
So do we want to go here?
Yeah, we'll go there, but let's just put it at this: like, this is my interview, but this is gonna be half and half us. I want to tell some, and then you can tell some. Like, there is no side to this. It's us versus them. Like.
So I guess and I'll start it off and you can kind of take over here and there, but this is probably, in all honesty, this is the more than likely the lowest point of both of our lives. And to set the stage, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on some of this stuff, but to my recollection, for whatever reason, we went to hang out with two different girls that were from Valley. We were both not students anymore, but we went to hang out with two girls that were students that we knew prior. They were friends of ours, and we were going to a bar downtown Phoenixville. So, from my recollection, we drove to campus, we picked them up, went to the bar, hung out at the bar, did our thing, whatever. I remember me personally, I remember pre-gaming before we went out. We were in the apartment together, and I was like, you were like, well, I'm driving. And I was like, okay, well, if Gene's driving, that means I could just drink a shit ton right now, you know? And so I had a bunch of drinks. And this is, by the way, this is me telling all this is not giving any excuses or anything like that. I'm telling you the story. So we get to the bar and I'm already feeling pretty good. And from what I remember, like, you decided to catch up with me. And so you caught up with me and like we had a great time. It was a blast. So then at the end, we're like, okay, well, we got to take these girls back to campus because we picked them up. And so we took them back to campus. And we decided, okay, it's probably better for us to like hang out around campus here for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes to sober up rather than drive the 30 minutes back to our apartment. Now, it was a Sunday night and it was not long after we were students. So there were still people there that we knew. And I don't know why we thought at 2:00 in the morning that we would like run into people we knew, but we're like, let's walk around campus and see if there's anybody that we run into that we know and stuff. It's 2:00 on a Sunday night. Nobody's doing anything except sleeping because they got to wake up for classes the next day or whatever. So we end up just kind of strolling around campus. And we ended up in the main building with chapel, whatever that building, I don't know what it was called, but the building that had the chapel, the cafeteria, all that kind of stuff. And we're like, door literally. Okay, so I want to say this because this is key to the story. We did not break into the building. Valley Forge security, I don't know if it's better now, at the time was very terrible. It was all completely we just walked right in. We ended up going upstairs. Long story short, we knew how bad campus security was. And so we took a iMac computer. We just walked it out. It was easy. It was not an issue at all. And long story short, like basically a few months go by and
Can I get into that for a second? Okay, so we were literally innocently just walking around, and we just ended up in the computer room, which was completely unlocked. And we're like, oh my God, computers. And both of us were like, it's like, I don't have a computer. And you're like, well, I do, but mine's shit. And I was like, then let's take one. And you're like, okay, yeah, okay. And we didn't feel like walking out with it. I don't know if you remember exactly how we got it out of that building, but that's pretty integral to this story as well. So we didn't want to just take the computer and walk down the hallways, because there was people awake, which was weird. But there was people awake. There was people hanging out in the hallways doing their Christian cuddling, or whatever the hell it was. So we didn't want to walk out. We're like, all right, well, how are we gonna get them out? So as we saw a window, and again, I don't know whose idea is what here. It just all came together. So we opened the window and we realized there's a roof there. So we're like, all right, we'll just put it on the roof, go outside, and then take it off the roof. It's like, all right, cool, that's easy enough. So we put it on the roof, shut the door, turn the lights off, shut the doors to the room, go downstairs. We're like, all right, it's right there. I remember boosting Hat up, or helping boost, because there was like a trash can there. He got up on the roof, and as he gets up on the roof and he hands me the computer, I put the computer down on the ground, and then I was looked back up to get him. And as soon as that happens, some chick walks by and she goes, "Who are you? What are you guys doing?" And I ignored her. I completely ignored this. I was just like, and then she's like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm gonna tell. And then for some reason, I was like, I want to make a code name in my head. I was like, I gotta make a code name for Hat. So I'm not like, "Hey, Josh Hatmaker, come down here." So I was just like, Murph. And I started calling him. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Murph. It didn't get back to you, thank God. But I was just like, Murph. And he looked at me like he was so confused. And I think he started calling me Murph. He's like, "What do you want, Murph?" And I was like, "Oh God, that's wrong. Now I'm confused." And then I was like, "Okay, let's go." And he's like, "Oh," this chick's like, "I'm telling on you." But luckily, I think where I put the computer, it was hidden. So she didn't see we were stealing. She just thought we were climbing, being idiots. So she ran off and was like, "I'm telling it." And then we're like, "Oh man, we're fucked. Like we're gonna get so caught." And then we just like, screw it. We like at that moment we took like a 30-second like moral breakdown. We're like, should we take it? Well, it's right here. But what if we leave it on? I remember being like, "Can we just leave it on the ground?" He's like, "But no, we can't leave it on the ground because there's gonna be fingerprints." And we're like, "How does it get out the window?" I was just like, "Well, then we have to take it." So it was like 30 seconds of like, what should we do? We just took the computer and ran. We parked. I think, where did we park? Was it by?
It was
by the buses.
No, it was the Bongiorno parking lot. So like the back one between Bongiorno and the soccer field.
Yeah, okay, I got you. So I remember we grabbed it, ran to the car. We're sitting in the car, huffing, our hearts are racing. We're just like, oh man, what are we gonna do? We're just like, oh God, okay, all right, here we go. And then we just drove off. We got to the edge of campus, and I think he started freaking out. Was it? I don't know if it was you or me. One of us started freaking out terribly about it. And he's like, one of us, I don't know if it was him, but one of us was just like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get caught. Oh my God, we gotta bring this back. Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" So we got to the edge of campus, drove around to where they parked those buses behind Renaissance or whatever, parked there. I think one of us ran out with the computer. We're like, we're just gonna put it back in place. That girl saw us. She's gonna know we're gonna get caught. And then ran to go put it back, and then halfway changed mind again and ran back to the car. And then we were like, screw it, we're here, we're done. And we drove home, and that was it.
So fast forward months later, because it was what it was at that point, and we didn't get caught or whatnot. Months later, I can't even remember why, but we decided the stupid on our parts. Decided to sell the computer on Craigslist, and the person we sold it to was having issues with it, and I was like, oh fuck, like, so I'm trying to like solve these issues for this random person that we sold it to. And I like bought a bunch of software like for this person to like fix the problem, and this person couldn't figure out how to use the software. So it finally got to the point where it was like, this person was like, "Well, I don't know what to do," and went to I think like a computer repair place or something like that, and they then saw the serial number on the computer, and like, I don't know how, somehow they got like flagged that this was a stolen computer. So they alerted the police, and then obviously like they knew we were the ones that took it. And so I this is like maybe 2 months after we sold the computer. And like I remember being really nervous about selling it, but it was just like, okay, whatever. And it was like 2 months after. So at this point, I'm like, okay, we're fine. And I get a call from a state trooper saying he wants me to come in to interview me for something. Didn't tell me why. And I just remember like right away, I knew what it was. Like I knew what it was. And so I went in there and I had this whole story. I had this whole story made up of like, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it's something along the lines of like, I bought it off somebody from the place I play hockey at, or I don't know. I had this whole story to where it wouldn't like trace back to us. And as I'm going through this, like the officer that's doing the interview, he's like, all right. He's like, I've done a lot of research. I can tell like you don't have any history. You're a good kid. He's like, I'm just letting you know something about the story does not sit right with me. He's like, I'm giving you one more chance. You can tell me whatever you want, but I'm telling you right now, this does not sit right with me. Almost like hint, hint. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, what does he know? Like, what the hell does he know? And so I flat out told him, I go, listen, I'm not going to like run or anything like that, but I left my phone in the car. Can I go out to my car and make a quick phone call? He's like, yeah, do your thing. I trust you. So I went out to the car and I called Gene and I was like, dude, gig's up. Like I don't know what he knows, but he knows something. I gotta come clean, And so went back in there, told him everything that happened or whatever. And he was like, all right. He's like, that was your chance to be honest with me. I appreciate you being honest with me. And it's good you were honest with me because I already knew all this stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean? This guy, I'm not joking. He, to this day, it kind of creeps me out. He knew stuff about the both of us that I don't understand. It does not make sense to me how he even knew this stuff.
Dude,
I'm gonna
it was the creepiest shit too. Like he was just like, I know exactly like something so minuscule, like like about watching like kids or something, and then like for your job, but then something else about hockey and how you play certain days or something. It was just so weird.
So like the specific examples that I remember, and this is what's crazy to me. He was like, he's like, yeah, he's like, I know it was you and Gene, blah blah blah, and Gene's got a twin brother, and they're really big into cars. So like right off the bat, I'm like, okay, well, if you did some Facebook research, you could figure that out, whatever. But then he's like, yeah, like another instance, I know you've played hockey your whole life, roller hockey, and that like kind of threw me off because I was like, there's nothing on Facebook that I've ever posted that says that I played roller hockey my whole life. So I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. The one that like really, really set me off, he was like, just another example. He's like, 2 years ago, you were driving back home to Michigan from Pennsylvania, and you got pulled over by a state trooper. And right away, as he's saying this, I'm like, okay, well, he could just look that up and know that I got pulled over. What threw me off was he was like, yeah, and your two buddies that were from Michigan were behind you. Well, here's the crazy part is I had two friends from Michigan come visit me that semester, and we drove, like they came to visit me, and then we kind of drove back together, but in separate cars. They had stopped for gas and food or something like that. I got pulled over for speeding. They were at least an hour, 2 hours behind me. When I got pulled over, there would have been no reason for me to be like, hey, I got friends an hour or 2 hours behind me. I know for a fact I never said anything. So the fact that he knew that I got pulled over, and when I got pulled over, I had friends from Michigan that came to visit me that were also on their way back. Like just things like that were just like, to this day, are mind blowing. Like, how did he know all this stuff? And so, I mean, long story short, well, I guess long story long. It is what it was. We got misdemeanors, had to do community service, pay some fines, all that kind of stuff like that. So
we got three misdemeanors. I remember we got. They tried to get us for breaking and entering. They got us for.
They couldn't get us for breaking.
No, yeah, we turned that one over, and then they got us for theft by unlawful taking and theft by conspiracy. like two things that were like that's the same shit. Like, what are you doing? And I just remember being like, this is uncontrollable. But we got what was it, 150 hours of community service, 2 years probation, and it was just rough because I remember being in the courtroom with you was the scariest shit in my life. There was dudes in there that were like chained to their feet and their hands, and then there was a whole stand of people across from us, like 30 people, all with DUIs. And we were with another group that were all DUIs, and so these people are going up to the judge, being like, "Oh, so you were charged with DUI. You get 6 months probation. You get 50 hours community service." And I remember that pretty well. And it was just like, all right, and they did their thing and off, and then they pulled us up one by one. They're like theft by unlawful taking, theft by conspiracy, and then theft by breaking and entering. Whatever our public defendant, whatever idiot, was like, yeah, they didn't actually break in. It was brought up to security and campus that it was unlocked. So they're like, all right, we'll get rid of that one. But then these guys that are driving around drunk getting 6 months probation, 50 hours, and we stole a computer from a college we went to. We got 200 hours community service, freaking 2 years probation, and it was just like it just felt wrong. I was like, these guys are putting lives at stake, and we took a computer. It didn't sit well with me, but yeah, that was eye opening for both of us.
Well, I think like the positives, there wasn't many, but the positives that came out of this whole story, to me anyway, was like we kind of built like a personal relationship with this officer to the point where like the day of our first court hearing, like he came up to us and he's like checking on us, like, hey, you guys all right? He really appreciated that we were honest with him. We that for that for that first court hearing, Gene, I don't know if you remember this, but like we're doing the thing with the judge or whatever, and he's like, okay, well, you gotta like we had to get like quote unquote mug shots, which by the way you cannot find. Try it. I've tried it. I can't find it. We had to get mug shots, and so the judge was like, he's like, so I guess it's protocol for like the officer to take you into the station to get mug shots. And he was like, so what, like, he asked the officer, he's like, how do you want to do this? Are you going to take them in? And he's like, no, he's like, these guys were honest with me. I trust them. They'll show up or whatever. And so it's like, we kind of built that thing. We joked with him. We were like, listen, I don't know how you knew all the stuff he knew, but they need to make a movie about you. And he's like, oh, who would play me? Like, he's joking around with us. We got there for our quote unquote mug shots. And I remember it was dead middle of summer. And I was like really, really hot because I had like dressed up for court, obviously. Well, I had a sleeveless t-shirt on underneath me. And so on the way to court, I'm taking off my dress clothes because I'm like, who cares? It's a mugshot, whatever. We get in there and he was like, guys, like, did you like, he like gets all serious. He's like, this is not okay. And we're like, what? He's like, they didn't tell you? I'm like, tell us what? He's like, you guys can't bring guns in here. Like, okay, I get it. Like, he was cool. So like, I would guess like if there's any silver lining, it was the fact that like he was so cool about stuff.
One thing that got me about the whole situation when he was eyeing us up through whatever and figuring stuff out, like about your friends and going home. For me, it was, I don't know if smartphones were around at that time. I don't think they were, but I remember having like we were just like, okay, well, how do you know this? And he's like, it doesn't matter, I know this. And then he goes, and then I also know. And we were sitting there, and he's like, that you were driving. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, there's a program now that we can ping your cell phone from anywhere at any time and see that your cell phone was left and Hat's was right as you left the place and you were driving. And I was like, I was driving, but how do you know that? He goes, technology, man. He's like, that's all I got. And I was like, damn it. Like, he
Yeah,
had us down to T.
that was another crazy thing. Like, I'm glad you brought that up. Was like, and this is again like this is kind of scary for anybody out there who like has those like conspiracy theories, like Big Brother, whatever. He flat out told us, he was like, listen, it's not exactly what you would see in the movies. He's like, but it's pretty close. He's like, if your cell phone is on, you don't have to be calling somebody, but if your cell phone is powered on, the technology we have, and again, this is what, Gene, like 7-10 years ago now at this point. Who knows what the technology is now? But he's like, basically, the technology is we can't get it exactly, but it's within, I think he said it's within like a 6-foot radius. We can, like, if your phone's on, we could tell whatever. He's like, So we already knew we had you, like, we traced back the phone and had you in that room the night that the computer went missing. It was just like that shit's scary. I'm sorry, that shit's scary.
It really was unreal, man. Like we were just, that was the most freaking red-handed you could have caught someone, and we had no clue. But that's the thing. Remember, we got the big paper. We got a pamphlet of paperwork that had the whole trial and everything, and what happened, and the issue, and the theft. And it was like, we got away with it. Let's just start there. We got away with it. It wasn't smart. We shouldn't have done it, but we got away with it. And we know that because when we got the dissertation of all the paperwork, they were like, computer was stolen on this night in August or September, and initial things showed no suspects. And we read that and we were like, so if we didn't sell it, we were fine. But I remember vividly being like, it's Christmas, we're broke, we need to buy stuff. So we're like, let's just sell it. Like, all right, we're gonna sell it. And that's what we did. But one of the reasons that I think it's important that we brought this up is not just to tell you guys about a life-altering story that kind of bit us in the ass, is because I don't know if you remember, we went to Valley Forge after that to try and beg that they would lift the charges. And
I remember.
Jenny Duncan was there, and she was just unreal. She was like, it seemed, and she did say some of these words out loud. It was like she was praying for jail time. She was like, whatever it is, if it's jail time, you're gonna do it. And we're just like, we're here like on our knees, like it was one honest mistake. Like we were in the wrong, but we're here trying to mend it. And she was like, yeah, well, it could be jail time. And we're just like we thought it was just something minor, but she seemed like she was reaching for the worst.
Here, I'm glad you brought that up, because here's what's kind of crazy to me is it wasn't our public defender. It was actually this officer. He suggested us to go to the school, make up with the school, see what maybe they might drop the charges. That was the officer like telling us, okay? Because he knew, like, we were honest with him. He saw like whatever our character, like our true self, like he got it. It was a mistake. It was a stupid mistake. We were young, whatever. He was the one. He's like, go to the school, talk to them. Maybe they'll drop the charge or whatever. And I remember going to the school and being like, listen, this is not a money thing. We want to pay the person back the money that they spent on the computer. Absolutely. 100%. If you guys feel like you were out of, like, we will pay money for you to feel like whatever you lost for being down one computer that students probably never fucking used in the first place, whatever. But we were like very, very like, this potentially could ruin our lives. We have a history with this school of being good students. Maybe we didn't pass all our classes, but like, whatever. Had this whole thing. And like you said, like she was so gung ho and like, I want these two, like, and she was like, she told me, I remember these words specifically. It hurt me so bad when I found out it was two of my own. I wanted to, like, in that moment, I was like, what do you mean your own? You came in my last semester. You didn't know who the hell I was. I'm not one of your own. Like, don't give me that bullshit. So that is, I kind of held back this for all the podcasts, but that is my beef with Jenny Duncan, is that like she didn't give that grace. And granted, we were okay with that decision of not giving us grace because we didn't feel like we necessarily deserved it. We asked for it upon the officer's recommendation. We asked for it, but she didn't give it. But it wasn't even that she didn't give it. She so adamantly did not intend to give it. She wanted so badly to hurt. It didn't matter that we were both incredibly in fucking debt because of the school. It didn't matter. All that mattered to her was these two of my own turn their back on and go, whatever.
I know exactly what you mean, but yeah, that was rough, man. That's why I thought it was important to bring it, because I know a lot of times she's been brought up on multiple occasions about how mistreating people, and I think Big Rick brought something up about around the same bounds with that too, saying it was like she was the one that didn't give a shit. She just did what she wanted. She didn't care about how you turned out. She just was like, this is it. And that kind of way affected us. Like we didn't go in there with high hopes, like, yeah, everything's gonna be dropped, all the charges are gonna be dropped. We were just like, it's worth a shot. Like, it's worth a shot, if we don't, we don't. But for us, it was like, this is something where if we like in your case with a lot of extensions, there was almost a point where you couldn't leave the state if you needed to move back home. You granted you worked it out and it was and you could, but there was issues with that. There was issues like if we got another job, that's on our record at least for the next 2 years when we can get it expunged and whatever. But there was just a lot more to it than just we didn't care about paying the restitution for the computer or whatever charges they wanted to give us. But yeah, it was just that fact that there was no chance, like even before we walked in that meeting, but I didn't expect the meeting to be where we were ripped apart because of something that was honestly minor. It's a computer. Like it's not like what we did doesn't hurt anybody. It didn't cause harm. It doesn't like.
Yeah, you wanna throw me in jail for stealing a computer that cost the school $700, but you're gonna rip me off 20 grand every year and have me live in a like almost unlivable situation and give no like grace whatsoever. So you can go fuck off.
Yeah, it's exactly how it was, man. We went out there so pissed, and I remember that too because in between, I think it was in between stealing the computer and selling it. I think I took a free course as well. They were offering like a free course to get me back in because my grades were so fucking bad that they were like, you need to prove that you can do this. And I did really well in this course. It was a free course, whatever, until the last job I plagiarized because I was busy at work or something. And the professor called or emailed me. He's like, this is all plagiarized from this site. I need you to come to my office. And I emailed him back and I was like, I'm not a student. I'm not coming in. And I was like, I don't care. It was free. But then after, I remember in that meeting as well, Jane Duncan was like, oh, wait, you're Eugene English. Like, didn't you just take a free class like a month ago? You just finished and this and that. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, and you stole a computer, then came back and you thought it would be fine. I was like, those are two separate things, man. Like, what do I care? Like, I was trying to get back in maybe, but the computer was just like fucked up. Like, what do you want? So yeah, it was a mix of a couple things for me.
Well, let's I guess I mean that was a big story that we haven't really shared on this podcast. And I know some people know that was the extended version, so pretty much everybody's caught up now. Not a moment we're proud of, but on this podcast, at least for me, I've always decided, like I've always wanted to be completely open and honest, and so that's what that was. But let's move into something a little bit lighter here, and this is the last story I want to touch on, and then I'm going to let you do your thing here because I know you want to give some personal messages. This is just a completely random story, and so, again, this is another one some people know, but this is something that like you and I share together. So when we lived at the apartment together after 24 down, after I moved back home, came back to Pennsylvania, we lived in this apartment together. And Gene, go ahead and unmute yourself because I kind of want to hear your reaction. I'm gonna say
I don't know where this is going. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm gonna say one name, and I just want to hear your reaction. And that name is Chelsea. Gene's shaking his head for the.
Why would you?
So I want to bring up Chelsea.
So creepy, bro.
Okay, so
and you saw. Okay, yeah, you can get into it. If you need it, if you stop at any point, I can take over. You could do your room. I'll do the other one.
Okay, so basically we had a ghost at our apartment. And I know like some people maybe don't believe in ghosts or whatever. Like I'm telling you, we had a ghost at our apartment. Her name is Chelsea, and I will let Gene explain how we knew her name was Chelsea. But before we knew her name, there would just be weird things that happened in the apartment. Not often, but like once in a while. And like you didn't really think too much of it. And I think what set me off the one time I had these South Park stuffed dolls, right? And in my closet, you go into the closet and there was like a shelf up top in this closet, and I just had them sitting up there. And I woke up one morning to like open the door to get something out of the closet, and the South Park dolls are laying on the ground. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know, whatever, put them back. And a few days later, like same thing, like they're on the ground. And I'm like, okay, like that's weird. Cause like I put them on this shelf, and it wasn't a small shelf. Like there was some space to the shelf, and I put them back. So like There's no way these things could fall off on them on their own. And so I was like, there's something going on. At the time I was dating this girl, and she stayed over the one night, and she tells me the next morning that, like, okay, keep in mind my closet door was always shut unless I was going into it. She tells me she wakes up in the middle of the night and the closet door is open, and all she sees in the pitch blackness, all she sees are eyes looking at her in the closet. So now it's like, oh boy, like there's something going on. So there's more. I'll let Gene share a little bit.
Yeah, that was funny because it brings me back to other issues as well. But the one thing I want to say about her name, okay, so we had these old ass windows in our kitchen, and it was sliding. We're on the third or fourth story, I think.
Third, yeah.
There was no balcony. There was no nothing on the outside of the window, and we had these old windows that the right one would slide behind the left one, so it was right to left instead of up and down. And on the outside of the left pane, and it wasn't there when we moved in. We saw this. We've been living there for a while, and amidst all the stuff happening with his closet and the South Park stuff, we were, I don't know, doing something in the kitchen, cleaning or cooking or something, and all of a sudden I see the name Chelsea written on the outside of the window so we could read it, but on the left pane, couldn't get to when the window was open because the right pane would block it.
So basically,
that showed up randomly.
Yeah, basically you could not open the window and then reach out and write Chelsea on the outside. You literally had to be on the outside of the window while the window was closed. And again, like Gene said, there's no balcony. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was rough. And for me, that was after that started happening, we saw the name Chelsea. It was very blatant that it wasn't there before. We would have seen it. And then I remember just after that started happening, one thing that was huge is like you were chilling in your room. I think it was at night, you said, by yourself, and you're watching TV or something. And all of a sudden the screen starts to just blacks out and goes pixelated, like to the old school when cable didn't work. And you're like, this has been happening for like 3 days now, like every night. And it's like, I don't know if you were using your Xbox and streaming something, so it wouldn't make sense. Whatever you were doing, it didn't make sense. It was like he was watching movies on his Xbox and would just go to that screen that you couldn't even get on a TV anymore. And the same kind of stuff started happening when we were moving out. That was crazy too. And Dan was there. Our buddy Dan, we moved into his house from there, and it was just nuts because he said he went over there while we were at work or something, and he wanted to patch up a couple of holes because he knew we'd get fined for it. And he said doors were opening and slamming down the whole house. The sliding door was shut really hard. The front door was slamming. I guess when it happens, I've read or heard things on TV shows, whatever, where if you alter things in the house, it can upset ghosts or spirits that are laid there or whatever. And he said he got out of there as fast as he got in. He went in, started working. All of Hat's door, my door, all opening and slamming, and so that's when we really knew. But we knew the whole time we were there once we saw Chelsea and all the things that you dealt with as well.
So the one thing like that I will say about Chelsea is like once we figured out like, okay, we've got this ghost in this apartment and her name's Chelsea, like there was almost like, oddly enough, there was almost a peace about it. And like we never felt really threatened or scared. And sometimes we would even talk to her. Like if a broom fell over, we'd be like, oh, Chelsea, what are you doing over there? Like it was just kind of a thing. And the only time that like I felt kind of uneasy, other than like first finding out about it, was when we moved out. And when we moved out, like she was not happy that we were leaving because I think like we had that thing built where like we would talk to her and accept her and like she was part of our family essentially. We moved out, like she was not happy. I remember carrying, I don't remember what it was, carrying something out, a couch or something like that. And we get it out of the door's wide open because we're both carrying a couch, and we get about halfway through down the hallway and the door just slams shut. And we're like, like just things like that. So that was a crazy story. I know some people know about it, but like I wanted to bring it up because I think it's fun.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth talking about because, like, I mean, honestly, I know that you say this a lot, but these podcasts are part one of part two. Everybody has the option to come back. I know it took me 23 episodes to get on. I was a little bit nervous, but I was also in the same sense like I'm enjoying others doing it. I don't have the equipment. Ever since I sold that computer and got caught, I still haven't owned a computer. Like I'm not even shitting. I don't even own a laptop. I don't have anything. So, Hat actually kind of pressured me to do this, and he's like, yesterday he's texting me like, "Yo, you gotta do this, man. Come on, do it." And I was like, "I'll talk to some friends. I'll see what I can work out." He goes, "I'm posting it, so you have to do it." I was like, "That's not gonna work." He posted it. I was like, "Now I gotta do it." All right. Well, I'm not gonna say no if people start throwing questions. Then luckily, people didn't throw questions for like a day, and I was like, "All right, maybe we'll just get to this and be like, oh, there's no questions. We'll do it another time." All right, perfect. But yeah, I'm going to have someone like Hat in my life. We spent like he said, 3.5 years outside of college, mostly drunk, mostly with Alex Anderson, watching wrestling, a whole lot of beer pong. But the reason I brought up the parts thing was because I would like the next part to be a closer look into those 3.5 years for us. It'd be great for me personally to just get to relive those with you because just like 24 Down, that was a pretty strong part in our life. And I think it would make a good podcast. We're just, shooting the shit about things that we did, stories like the ghost, stories like, the Call of Duty and stuff like that, and having Alex over. And then one time he surprised Francis when he came over in your room with our pants down, bent over, and our balls hanging through our legs. Just stuff like we're just idiots, and it was just so much fun. So yeah, there will be a part two. Maybe it'll take another 23 episodes. I don't know. I don't care. But no, I do want to. I think that would be a good idea for us and good for us as well. But one thing I did want to say before everything kind of just closes out in general. Like I've been watching a lot of, or I don't watch because I listen at work, but there's a lot of things that I wanted to say personally to people, and I told Hat that I wanted to do that as well. But there's just a couple things that stand out, but I don't want to get into everybody because it's going to take a lot longer. But one thing is during Rizzo's episode, your father Rizzo is the real MVP. Like that dude is the greatest guy like I've ever met. Like it's easy for me to latch on to people like that because I didn't have a father growing up. My grandfather did the best he could, and he didn't live with us. We weren't living with him, so it wasn't always on and off. But yeah, so people like him just restores a lot of my faith in who I can be as a person. So seeing him and how he raised you and how you're just so accepting of everybody. Like your dad is the real MVP. Like I loved everything about him. I remember one time you came down for Drew's wedding. We were all in it, and we hung out for like a day or two. And we're like, all right, let's go get some meat. And you were like, yeah, this is all my dad. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, he loves you guys. He knows he just wants to pay. And we're like, he's in Buffalo. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, he sent me here with this card. He's like, I'm getting dinner for everybody. And we're just like, it's unreal, man. Like, how do you do that? Like, most people would just be like, all right, sayonara, I'm gonna have a weekend without you. Like, who cares? But yeah, so stuff like that really stands out to me, and it really means a lot. And just like everybody says nice things about my mother and how hospitable she was, and that's the same thing I want to say to people like that. And so it is. I'm really grateful to have met your father, nonetheless, been treated well by him. So
Spectacular.
You gotta stop.
So no, like we like the 24 Down family as a whole, like literally, like there's so many good parents. I'm glad you brought that up. There's so many good parents. Like all the parents that I met, like I can't tell you, like there's just good memories for each one of them, and I think it speaks to the 24 Down family as a whole. The reason 24 Down, part of the reason 24 Down is the way that it was because we were all our characters, but we were all raised by the people that made us that way. So like our parents and grandparents and whatnot, like they're obviously awesome because they made us to be that way. So that's cool you bring that up.
And that's another thing, real quick, Hat. We were at your wedding. And at first, I've lived with you the longest, and they're like, hey, let's get married. We got an invite. We're like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And then I was like, why the hell am I not in the wedding? Like, what the shit, man? Like, this sucks. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, no, Hat's his own man. And I was like, honestly, if I had to go up there for a bachelor party, buy all this shit, get it done, do it right, come early, I was like, he was really just looking out for me. But on that note, you were looking out for me, and I'm glad for that. But going back to the parents thing, like I never met your dad or your mother or whatever because they weren't around. They were moving around. I think you said they would move to like Tennessee or something, and during college days and stuff. and never got a chance to meet him. But he came up to, I don't know if it was me or a group of us, like me, Rizzo, Francis, at your wedding, and he was just like, "So you guys are the ones for 24 Down?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "You guys are twins." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "So did he live with one of you when he was in PA?" I was like, "Yeah, he lived with me for like 3-4 years." He goes, "Dude," he's like, "I don't know what it is, but he just loves you guys, and the way that you guys always live together, the way 24 Down is." He's like something about you guys. Like he almost thanked us. He was like, "Thank you for being there with him. Thank you for being this and that." Because I don't know what was going on specifically in our life, but it didn't seem easy all the time. So he just made it seem like, even though never having met us, never having met him, he was still grateful that we were there for his son, and he turned out to be such a great person to the point where like 10 of us would leave, 4 different states to show up and come to his wedding. That's it's really hard to do for a lot of people, and yeah, he really thanked us. So on that note, like even seeing your dad say that, that says something, that says bounds to all of us. Like we're grateful for the parents, even the ones we haven't met, who know, excuse me, that we have impacts on each other's lives.
That's incredible, man. I didn't know that. Like that's a story I had no idea. And like it's incredible. Like, literally I know for a fact my parents they because I constantly always talk like during college always talked about 20 everything with 24 down 24 down, and then even after like everything was like about this family, and so like they know how important everybody is, whether they met people or not. Pretty much my parents dropped me off when I first went to college, so they met the Vieira twins and they met Donovan, whatever. um and that was it. Like they never met, but like they, I'll bring up stories and I'll be like, tell them like, oh, okay, so you know Gene, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like just different because they heard me talk about it so much. But it's that I appreciate you sharing that story. That means a lot because I had no idea. Um,
Oh yeah, I thought you knew, but that's fine. I'm glad
well,
that it came up just now. Perfect.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, let me say a few things, Gene, really quick, and then I'm gonna give you the last words. Like you said, you want to do some kind of like more personal messages, and so we can do that either in the back porch episode of this podcast, or we could do that in part two, whatever. Because I know you want to go through kind of everybody that's been on so far and say some things that you've thought listening to those episodes, and so that will come. But man, dude, like there is a untapped amount of stories and memories that you and I have together, from living together, especially those 3.5 years after college, to playing cops and robbers in our Maximas, like you and Francis and Tim and all
Oh
that,
my God, what about that?
to our mini bikes, but even like back to 24 down days, like the 24 down wrestling, like DX baby, and like you, me, and D-Shat doing Ted's hot dogs and Enter Shikari and hanging out with Asking Alexander. And like there's
I forgot
literally
all about
there's so many things that we can get into, but like um I, I know you were stubborn about coming on, but selfishly and personally, like I wanted this episode to happen so bad because hands down, like you are absolutely one of my best friends that I've ever had in my entire life. Um, and I don't mean to downplay any of the rest of my friendships in 24 down, but like we just we always had that connection. We just always did right off the bat. And so it was really like huge for me to have you on. I can't appreciate enough how much you being on means. And the last thing I want to say, and everybody listening to this, if you take nothing else away from this podcast, at least hear this one portion. Everybody wants to give me credit about starting this podcast and getting things rolling and whatnot. To be completely honest, like I had the idea of doing a podcast a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was, and I didn't do jack shit about it. We had that first Zoom call back early COVID. I don't remember when it happened or exactly, but we had that first Zoom call and everybody's hanging out, talking, having fun. And Gene made one comment during it. I mean, he made multiple comments, but there was one comment he made, and he said something along the lines of, "Man, we should do like a podcast." And because I had that idea prior, and I didn't do anything with it, it like hit me so hard. And I'm like, yeah, we do need to do a podcast. So as much as people want to give me credit for starting this, blah, 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 like Gene deserves just as much, if not more, credit for lighting that fire under my ass to actually go ahead and start this. And I want people to really know that, because that is huge. Had he not said that, we might not be sitting here talking. You guys might not be sitting here listening to this right now. So Gene deserves just as much credit, if not more. And I appreciate you for that. So with that, Gene, I'm going to let you have the last words, and then we'll take off.
Sounds good. Yeah, I know you want to give me the credit, but that's the thing about you and me. We have a great dynamic where even when we're living together, getting in trouble, doing dumb shit, like we feed off each other, but you're the kind of person that will take it to the next level. So I can have a small idea. I remember that all the time. Just I would have something small. You'd be like, let's get mini bikes. Okay, well, that's fine. You know, so that's kind of just how it always played out. So I'm glad that, you know, something I said sparked it still, because that's something we had. That was something that was huge. But yeah, I mean, as far as coming on the podcast, I wasn't nervous or anything. I wasn't scared. It was just something I was putting off, something I didn't really, it was just, you know, I'm that kind of person. I just like to stay in the back. A lot of times when things happen at 24 Down, I was always the guy like behind the camera, not even holding the camera, just fucking behind it. A lot of the things that were recorded, I was there for. I just was like, I'm just going to chill. Like, that's kind of how I am. So that's when it came to this podcast, that's how it was. I was just like, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to watch, see how it goes out, whatever. Luckily, I have a hat, and he's just a stubborn, oh God, you know. But I love him. I love him to death. And yeah, it might have been my idea or my saying, but it's still you. So as much as you want to give me credit, everyone knows that you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, you're putting in, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears. Like you're making this a reality, so that 15 or 10 to 15 years later, depending on who it is, we're all here and we're all connecting just like we were in college. And that means more to any of us. And especially me, because I know that we had an outside 24 Down experience in life, and it was much bigger than 24 Down at that time, especially getting in trouble. That was just shit ever. But to close out, I guess I'll just I wanted to say something special about everybody that was on the podcast, because every time my name was brought up, it was always in a good way. It was always about a fun story. You know, I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the stories. I don't know everything, but this rekindles a lot of things that are personal for me and personal for all of us at 24 Down, because whether I was involved or not, like we're all there. We all know, and it was perfect. And you know, I wouldn't change my time there for anything. I wouldn't go to class more. I wouldn't, you know, go to chapel. These things that make us us, I wouldn't change, even the little things. So I'm thankful that you got me on here finally. Andrew, thanks for sort of being on most of the time and letting me say hi to your daughters. But yeah, it's awesome. I love you. I love you guys at 24 Down. Yeah. Until next time, we have a lot more stories, a lot more to go on. So until then, love you guys.
Love you, Gene.